Really her speed on the runway. For pretty much her whole entire career, she has been one of the fastest vaulters. And as I mentioned earlier, the amount of speed you bring down the runway, simple physics. If you're not moving fast, you can't go very high in the air, regardless of how good your technique is. So the technique really serves to harness the energy that you put in from the speed you get down the runway and preserve that energy, I guess, if you will. That's what we all work on the technique for. But the real work is done on the runway, just getting down there and being able to hold as high as you can on as big a pole as you can and still execute technically a good jump.
Well, it does all come down to the technique, and of course the adjustments made are so seemingly minute. You know, it's almost, and I know that obviously the athletes and the coaches are deeply attuned to it, but to the naked eye, the changes made, I'm sure, are just, you know, very minuscule. So what would that conversation, do you think, be like between coach and athlete in that sort of instant video review? What kind of cues do you think she might be getting?
Yeah, the first thing they're going to look at is her steps. Where did her steps hit on the runway? Was she, what we say, on the run, or was she a little bit off? If she ran a little differently, because she had been sitting for a while, they may not make any adjustments at all. They'll say, okay, let's just go back and do that again, but just run normal, and you'll be fine. They'll also look at certain technical elements, and each athlete tries to develop specific cues that they can relate back to and say, okay, did I do this? Did I do that? Those are the things that lock in that consistent pattern of behavior on the pole and lead to successful jumps. So she'll have a little second to catch her breath, and being a Puma-sponsored athlete, being one, with our title sponsor here, it's a great way for her to sort of showcase what she can do.
And again, this is the penultimate stop on the 2024 American Track League Tour. Third day of competition here at the Ed Murphey Classic. We had field events on Thursday, track events yesterday, and then it all culminates in this street party, really, here on Beale Street in the home of the Blues. The American Track League will be moving on to the Holloway Pro Classic in Gainesville, Florida in just a few days' time on Friday, July 19th. That'll be the last stop of the Puma American Track League for this year before things shut down, certainly stateside and really across the world as everyone turns their attention to Paris. But before we get there, everyone's turning their attention to Sydney Morris. And I mean, there is a laundry list of things we could say about this competitor. She is truly one of the best all time. She is the fourth best vaulter in the world all time, and World Athletics now combines indoor and outdoor marks. So that is a combination of those two venues. And so it is fourth all time behind Isinbayeva, Jen Schur, and Sidorova.
Yeah, and as you see, the approach that she does here, whereas on a normal track, the runway surface is just part of the track normally, and the box, the steel box that you plant the pole into is actually sunk into the ground. Here, this is a portable runway. This runway is about 10 inches tall, 10 or 12 inches tall, and it sits above the ground, so it's like a platform. It makes the event unique in between indoors and out, and that some athletes run a little better on the boards, others run a little better on what we call a flat track or a normal track. Sandy has actually jumped very, very high on both. Her American record outdoors was done in Brussels in 2016 during a Diamond League event, and yet she's also jumped very, very well on board runway. She's a two-time world indoor champion, both times on board runways. So she's been very successful on both apparatus, and as a result, it's really played to her consistency over the years. I wouldn't say she's better at one versus the other. So when she transitions during the outdoor season, where she's running mostly on normal tracks to a board runway, it's a pretty seamless transition for her most of the time.
Well, talk about having a well-equipped toolkit to be able to draw from, and like you said, it speaks to her consistency that she can easily transition from one surface, one venue, one circumstance to another. So busting some rust there at first attempt at 450. This will be her second attempt, the only competitor left here. 14.9 and a quarter for Sydney Morris. And look at that speed on the runway, as you mentioned, Jeff, so fast. And there it is. That's the Sydney Morris that we know and love. Sandy Morris that we know and love, pardon me. So a clean attempt there at second time of asking, and she must feel some relief now to have had a successful clearance.
Yeah, for sure. You know, after you sit a long time and then all of a sudden you have that first attempt, doesn't go real well. You end up having a miss at your opening attempt. Sometimes you're just sort of relieved to get around that next one, and now she can relax. She's already our winner now, having a successful clearance here. So now she'll get to choose whatever she wants for the next height and make some more adjustments. She'll go over and consult with her coaches for the day, and we'll see. She's coached full-time by Brian Compton. He's the coach at University of Arkansas. Very accomplished, very successful coach for many, many years. And Sandy made the move back to him. She had made a change a couple of years ago. Went back to Coach Compton this past year, and really feels more comfortable jumping. And it was just unfortunate that things didn't go as well at the Olympic trials this year when she finished fourth.
As we have said a few times, certainly disappointment there to not have made this team. But sometimes, you know, it really lights a fire. Not that athletes necessarily need that. You want things to go well when it counts, but I think that there are excellent lessons learned, especially over sort of the entirety of a career. Lessons learned from the failures as much from the successes.
Oh, for sure, because this will give her a chance to go back and look and say, okay, what went wrong? You kind of do that every year. You go back, you look, say, what went wrong for the year, what went right for the year, and certainly someone like Sandy actually has a hard time finding what went wrong this year.
It's a great problem to have.
It's a great problem to have, and so this year she gets, she does have one moment to kind of look back at. And say, okay, well, that one could have gone a little bit better, but moving forward, you don't really change your course. You stay on the course. You decide you're gonna what things you can change to improve, and hopefully avoid making any mistakes that you might have made to begin with, and then you're more successful the next time down the road.
Well, if you're just tuning in, you are joining us here on Beale Street in the home of the Blues in Memphis, Tennessee, and we are watching the 2024 edition of the Ed Murphey Classic. This is the final day of competition. We've had some excellent performances in our road miles. We're watching our pro women's pole vault. We have our men's pro pole vault coming up in just over an hour's time at 7:30 Central. And that sun remaining hot and high in the sky. Not too much wind to speak of, which can be, again, a blessing and a curse. Many of these athletes looking forward to hopefully some relief from the heat. But, Jeff, you're such a accomplished vaulter yourself, and I know that the sport and certainly the event has changed a lot over the years. I'm wondering, did you ever do anything fun like street vaults? Or, I remember a time, I'm from Canada originally, and I remember a time when we had a pole vault in the West Edmonton Mall inside a giant shopping center. So curious if you have any fond memories of sort of alternative vaulting experiences.
Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of different experiences. I actually jumped in a couple shopping malls. I broke the American record in a shopping mall one time. I jumped in a bullfighting arena. I jumped in the Dusseldorf airport.
Wow.
I've jumped on a couple of beaches around the world, and let me tell you, each time you get a chance to take the event portable and get out around people that especially have never seen the event, it's really special, and it's a lot of fun, and it gives you a little different perspective, too. You get a little excited getting to jump someplace that you didn't expect to, and every time I walk through the Dusseldorf airport now, I say, hey, I remember when I was just pole vaulting right over there by Starbucks.
I think it's great that you can say any time I walk through the Dusseldorf airport, because, of course, we can all relate to that. It's a common experience for all of us. Well, you see Ms. Morris there just wiping the sweat off of her brow. She's looking pretty calm, cool, and collected given how hot it is, but certainly feeling this heat and trying to get out of it as much as possible. Hard to do here as temperatures have been
we talk
almost
about
triple digits, as you said.
Exactly. We talk about how the wind affects the athletes, and while they welcome a little bit of a breeze to help them stay a little cooler, in the pole vault, carrying the pole when the wind is blowing, the poles only weigh about 5 to 7 pounds. And so because you're holding the very end of them, something like a wind can actually affect how you carry the pole, which can affect your run, and that needs to be consistent. So they do welcome a relatively calm day, which we see here where we have almost no wind in the streets here, and that makes them able to run more consistently, although, as we see here, you got to take a little drink of cool water just to cool off.
Absolutely. And we also are at the advantage of having these buildings around us, which you don't always have on, in a stadium situation. Sometimes things are a lot more open, and that wind can become a lot more of a factor. Great shot there of Beale Street, and the crowd's continuing to build, but certainly all eyes on Sandy Morris.
And as she walked past that indicator board, it was turned sideways. You couldn't see it, but the officials actually, to help the athletes out, they'll hang a little streamer down from that. And that blows. It's very lightweight. It blows in the wind, and it gives the athletes sort of something to look at. Sort of like a pilot looking to land an airplane on a runway. They can look at that. They look at the flags, and they see which way that wind is blowing, and that helps them adjust as they're coming in for their approach.
Well, as we were getting set here to start our broadcast, I was over, just for folks on the live stream, we are just, feet away from where the action is happening, which is quite exciting for us. But I remember someone saying, "We need a medic." And I thought, "Oh no, is there an emergency?" And they said, "No, we just need some pro wrap so that we can hang it from that sign so they can have a wind read." I thought, well, that's something new. You don't hear every day. We need a medic so we can get an indicator of wind.
And that's something the athletes will watch. They usually try to hang that in a position where the athletes can see it from the back of the runway. And sometimes your perception of the direction of the wind is a little bit skewed, and you may feel a cool breeze in your face that feels refreshing, but you don't want to run down into a headwind. So you'll hold tight for a few minutes and wait for that wind to come around. A lot of times in a city like this, the wind doesn't blow consistently because the buildings around us affect how the wind swirls. And so those are all things that she's got to look at and take into account before she makes each attempt down the runway.
And in terms of attempts, we do have word that she has passed now at 4.60 meters, so the bar will go up to 4.65. So that is going to be
4.60.
Another pass. So just one clearance so far, and that was at 4.50.
And 4.65 is about 2 inches higher, 15.3.5 or so. Couple inches higher than that, but it's just a 6-inch increase from where her opening height was, and as we did see on her clearance, she was well over 6 inches above the bar.
So energy conservation is the name of the game as the very speedy and successful Sandy Morris makes her way down the runway. And unfortunately not over there at first time of asking with 4.65.
And what we saw in that jump was actually she had plenty of height, but she came down on the bar. And so now she'll make an adjustment. And it could be a little bit of that wind. You see her putting her hands up in the air. Maybe she thinks she didn't quite hit the pole the way she wanted to hit it, because how you hit the pole when you plant the pole determines the way the pole moves. The pole is effectively like a metronome.
So we'll have another look here at that attempt and tune into all the great points you're making here, Jeff. Again, you mentioned she's such a fast athlete and great height. That was a fantastic perspective on how much she had in terms of daylight between herself and the bar, but just coming down on it.
And sometimes that's actually a great feeling. You may come down on the bar, but you say, hey, I got plenty of height. Now I just got to make that adjustment. And it could be as simple as the things that hold the crossbar up, we call them standards. Those standards are movable. So she can actually move those to match more closely with the peak of her jump and give her a good chance to just repeat the same thing and be successful on the next jump.
All these minute changes that seemingly make all the difference. And good conversation there. Now, that's another evolution, I would think, with all of the video and the ability to sort of see in almost real time, immediately after your jump, how things went. And what kind of tools did you employ when you were vaulting that might be comparable to this?
Well, you take all the input and you try to narrow it down to just one or two simple adjustments. That's the big thing. There's so many variables. Like we said earlier, the height you grip on the pole, the stiffness of the pole, where you put the standards, where you run from. And when you start messing with a lot of different variables, it's really hard to identify exactly where the problem might be coming from. So I tried to refine down to just one or two variables and say, okay, I'm going to leave everything else the same, and then try to make my adjustments based on those a limited number of variables, and then that's where you get more consistency.
Well, again, I can imagine it would be paralysis by analysis if you tried to change too much all at once. We just saw a little conference there between Marissa Kelsey and Sydney Walter, who are both out of competition now, but still on site and surely cheering on Sandy Morris as she makes her second attempt, or gets ready to make her second attempt here at 4:65. That's 15:3. Our athletes enjoying this environment here, and in some ways, I know these athletes would love to have advanced higher than they jumped, but now they can enjoy themselves and the hospitality of the American Track League and of the Ed Murphey Classic, of the turnout, the energy, and we still have a thrilling men's competition yet to come. We only had 4 women contesting on the women's side, but we have a stack of highly talented and accomplished men taking to the runway in just under an hour's time.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the men's competition later. We have 2 of our Olympians slated to go to Paris here in just a couple of weeks, getting ready to go at it. Sam Kendricks and Chris Nilsson. This is Sam's 3rd Olympic team, Chris's 2nd. Chris was the silver medalist in Tokyo. Sam was the bronze medalist in Rio. Obviously, two of the best. They both, at some point or another, shared or held the American record. Chris is our current American indoor record holder. Sam just 1 centimeter behind Casey Lightfoot, another one of our competitors here today, who is the American record holder. All of our competitors in the men's competition were at the Olympic trials. This
Absolutely.
is really a class field.
It is, for sure. And there you see, you can be a fan of Sandy Morris, but you can also be Sandy Morris's fan. And she is doing everything she can to cool down. I talked about being in Tokyo for the last Olympics, and I was competing in the 5,000 meter. I don't recommend running 12 and a half laps all out in about 112 degrees. It's not advisable. But we were using all those same techniques. We would wear the cold vests all the way through the call rooms, and just ice packs on the neck, on the wrist, just doing anything possible to keep yourself cool. And such a difficult thing in this heat. But she is a veteran of the sport. She knows all the tricks. I'm sure she's vaulted in every condition possible and knows exactly what to do. And I'm sure you also have some memories of some really difficult conditions to compete in.
Yeah, and unlike those 13 or 14 minutes that you can't stop running, the pole vaulters are only running a few seconds at a time.
But out there for much longer than I was. That's the hard thing.
But out there for a long time, and we don't always have the luxury of having those cool vests in between the jumps and the ability to kind of cool down. So you've got to do a good job of energy conservation, energy management, and try to be consistent. And so a lot of times we see them hiding out under the shade, choosing to start a little higher when you know it's within your capabilities. And these are all strategies that each athlete uses in order to be the most successful on their given day.
Temperatures continue to be very hot. So does the energy on Beale Street. You're just tuning in. Thanks for joining us for the 2024 Ed Murphey Classic. 1 athlete remains in our women's comp. We've got full slate coming up in our men's competition. Crowds are starting to build. You can see sweat also building. I got to tell you, we were at the track yesterday, and talk about some excellent performances. We saw some meet records. We saw Tennessee soil records. We saw PBs and season's best across the board. But I got to tell you, we were there from about 8:30 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, calling the youth meets in the morning and then the pro events in the afternoon. I had 3 costume changes, I'll call them. I had a full change of clothes 3 times over because I just was absolutely drenched in everything that I was wearing. Well worth it, but man, is it hot here. And speaking of yesterday, again, all those great performances, you were here as well. And what stood out for you? Was there anything that you particularly enjoyed, any event that you enjoyed watching yesterday?
Actually, to be honest, I think it was Addie Wiley winning the 800. It was absolutely fantastic. Addie, I got to watch her here last year and sort of followed her career, and then came up a little bit short at the Olympic trials this year. And, of course, it is just you're running against much more experienced runners, and she is very mature for her number of years in the sport, especially as a professional. And to see Addie come out and run that 158, she kind of ran a little different strategy yesterday. She took the lead right from the beginning. She ran from the front and proved to be a very good strategy, and it led to an absolutely incredible time of 158, just barely off of her personal best.
Always thrilling here in Memphis as Sandy Morris makes another attempt now, and it's a good one. So this is deja vu all over again, and she celebrates right away as she has a successful second attempt at 4.65. That is 15.3. You can see what that meant to her. Again, you know, we've talked about sort of the nerve management and finding ways to stay in the zone but still enjoy the energy of the crowd. It's a fine line on both sides, and having the experience that she has, she manages it very well, but that really looked like it meant a lot to her.
And we're going to look at this jump again, and there is an exhilaration when the whole jump comes together, and you see the energy just continues to flow through the jump, whereas the last jump, she had her peak kind of in front of the bar, and then everything kind of dies onto the bar. That time, all the energy kept going with a really nice clearance, and plenty of room to spare. So now she'll have the opportunity. I'm sure our officials are waiting to see, hey, what do you want to try next? And that luxury of being able to choose your heights, she may decide to go for a new season's best. She may decide to be a little more conservative because she's only taken a couple of jumps here. So she's well within the range of not having to worry about running out of energy for the day. And now it's just a question of what sets her up best to continue to go in the competition.
Well, you talked about her speed on the runway, and to my eye, as the sort of like untrained pole vaulter, she really looked like that speed carried through the entirety of that jump. So incredible performance there for Sandy Morris. Lots more to come. Thanks so much for tuning in to our coverage of the 2024 Ed Murphey Classic. We're going to step aside for just a moment, but don't go anywhere because lots of thrilling action yet to come here on Beale Street in Memphis.
Let's do it.
Come on, Dad, get me.
Ooh, nice play. All right, go. There you go.
So cute. At Ally, we're helping millions save more for the things that matter most to them. Whatever you're saving for, we're all better off with an Ally.
Get back to work.
All right, and we are
Beale
back.
Street.
We are seeing the officials measuring a bar. We've been told the bar is going to go to 15 feet 9 inches, 4 meters and 80 centimeters. That's quite a performance. There's only a few ladies in the world that have actually jumped that high this year. And so this will put her up there with probably the top 5 or 6 vaulters in the world.
And this is a height that she's already cleared this year indoors, 482, her season's best. So familiar with this height. Of course, 15 meters, her national record from back in 2016. But as you mentioned, this is elite stuff. This is top class, being able to clear 480. And I would imagine we've been talking about the heat. It's cumulative. There's cumulative effects. You see her there just trying to stay out of the sun and do everything she can to stay cool. I imagine that she'll want to make every attempt count. So good for her for raising the bar, literally and metaphorically.
And at this point, she's really just sort of focused on, hey, can I just go down and repeat the same thing? It looked like she had plenty of height to really give a good attempt to this height. And so I think she'll be focused once she steps on the runway. And yet at the same time, Sandy's aware of the people that are yelling out to her from the stands, come on, Sandy, go, Sandy. And she likes to respond to that, and that actually makes her thrive. That gives her more energy to be strong. You see that can that's on the runway there with her name on it, that's actually a sticky spray. And the vaulters are allowed to use any type of substance they want to achieve a better grip on the pole. Sandy's one of the vaulters that likes to use a sticky surface, so she sprays this spray adhesive on her hands or on the pole, and that makes the pole a little bit sticky to hold on to. A lot of our vaulters we saw earlier, Kristen Brown using chalk. So when she was clapping, you see the dust from the chalk come off of her hands, and each, once again, we talked about this all day. What really gives you the best overall package, the best number of variables that you can affect to give you success. And so with a sticky grip, she's able to hold on a little bit stronger maybe to the pole, and of course that allows her to swing a little bit better. Sandy's one of the athletes who didn't come from a gymnastic background. She's truly a track athlete at heart. She was a hurdler in high school, also a very accomplished high school pole vaulter, Started out at North Carolina and then transferred to Arkansas, where she was super successful, setting many, many national records there, and has really, truly been a track athlete. And yet she's able to still achieve the gymnastic component of the technique and do it very well.
I think the equivalent there might be as a runner for me. We talk about using Vaseline or some kind of lube to prevent chafing in the really, really hot temperatures. I would imagine that grip becomes all the more important when you are just coated in sweat.
It sure does, and that's something that they got to think about. There's nothing worse than running down the runway and feeling sweat run down your hand, and at the same time you're trying to hang on to the pole.
There you see Eddie Murphy being interviewed, and such a staple here, of course, the Ed Murphy Track Classic. Absolutely essential to the success of this event is the Murphy family, and they are everywhere. It is so cool to see, Jeff, every year that I've been at this meet, and I should say I competed at this meet the very first year back in 2017. And I've been coming to it every year since, either as a competitor and now as part of the broadcast team. And this event has grown tenfold, it seems, every year. And kudos to the Murphy family and all of their hard work, their investment, their dedication to our sport and to the success of American athletes and internationals, whether it be an Olympic year or not. Greatly appreciated, all of the commitment by the Murphys.
Well, when you have someone like Eddie Murphy, who's a true fan, but also very passionate about supporting the sport, and then gets his whole family involved, it's absolutely fantastic. And their commitment and dedication to make this event grow and be successful every year can't be spoken highly enough.
So we've already surpassed the meet record here at the Ed Murphy Classic. Last successful clearance there by Sandy Morris at 4:65, that is 5:3, was a meet record for the street pole vault. This would, of course, better that. And to your point, Jeff, it would be one of the premier marks in the world this year.
Yeah, for sure. Sandy jumped this high, just a couple centimeters higher during the indoor season. Hasn't been this high outdoors yet, so this is a chance for her to improve her season's best during the outdoor season, but also get her ready. She's actually headed over to London next week for the Diamond League competition, where she'll face those girls. She'll face those top 6 girls in the world who are some of her chief rivals.
Fast on the runway, and Beale's at the attempt here, 480. This is a big, big attempt. You mentioned the Diamond Leagues. We should mention Sandy Morris, an 11-time Diamond League winner. So she's no stranger to the level of competition and the pressure that comes with it, but seems to excel most often when the pressure's on. And we'll just make some adjustments here. So what did you see there that would stand out to you?
Well, Sandy does a great job of balancing Diamond League competition, where she's competing against the best of the world, but you also have to travel quite a bit, and staying home, being a little better connected to your fans and to people that support you or may know you, or even developing a few new fans. And so she really does a good job of kind of that balance that helps her prepare. In this particular case, as she does go higher and higher, the adjustments she's making have a more dramatic effect, if you will. We're going to take another look at that jump, and her margin of error is actually a little smaller each time she makes an adjustment to try to go higher. And something being just barely off, and all of a sudden you can't even complete the jump. So that's what we would call a bailout. She'll have another chance to hopefully get it right. It's really, the timing is so precise from when you take off the ground to how you swing on the pole, manipulate your body upside down, and then have a chance to clear the bar. And it's hard to be consistent every single time when you're pushing the limits of what your body's capable of doing.
So I know that there's an obvious energy expenditure that comes from just that run on the runway, and of course each successive attempt will have a cumulative effect. At what point on the runway do you make the decision to bail, and how much energy are you actually conserving, do you think? And it's hard to quantify, but how much energy are you conserving by not making a full attempt at a bar that you don't feel confident at.
Yeah, actually, the decision to make is not really a decision you make at all. It's made for you. I believe that she's fully intending to commit to the jump, if you will, every time down the runway. It's once you take off the ground and something isn't right, you physically can't finish the jump. It's that precise on the timing. And so what happens is you have a bad jump. And like I said, sometimes you can just kind of throw that one out and get back and get ready for the next one and then try to make it the best attempt you can. She could have felt a slight bit of wind on that one, and it would have affected the timing of how she plants the pole, and that would be enough to throw the jump off. So as we feel a little bit of wind here in our booth, it could very well be affecting her on the runway as well. And so now that's the beauty of the event. You actually get 3 attempts at each height, so she'll have at least 2 more to try to get around this bar.
So that 482 indoors earlier this year puts her at the 8th best vaulter in the world in 2024. An elite field indeed assembled here as we head into Paris. And no stranger is Morris to being near the top of the world list for each year and managing the pressure and all of the excitement very well. You're watching the 2024 Ed Murphey Classic, and being passed out right now are those American Track League. I don't even know what you call those, Jeff. They're bangers is the only way I can put it.
The noisemakers.
But Thundersticks, I'm being told. Thank you to our production team. Thundersticks, I like that term. So they're helping with some of the clapping as well and getting the crowd going. But no shortage of excitement here on Beale Street. Live music, hot temps, Thundersticks in hand. And a good opportunity for us to thank all of our behind-the-scenes crew, all of our officials. You see Mike Ham there, our head official, and he is just such a staple in all of these meets, making sure that things go smoothly. Serenity Douglas, our on-site interviewer, making sure that everyone is well-equipped with what they need to keep the energy going. And, man, I just absolutely love being here on Beale Street for this. I didn't have the opportunity as an athlete myself at the Ed Murphey Classic to compete in the road mile. Would have loved to have done that. I was always on the track. But, again, we saw those road miles go off earlier. We've got the women's competition underway in the pole vault right now. See a couple of our competitors there from earlier. And then we'll have the men's kicking things off in their competition in just about 37 minutes.
And many of the vaulters get to enjoy the maybe young local high school vaulters find out that this event's taking place. So while there are quite a few people that happen to just walk up and notice and say, hey, we're going to watch this for a few minutes, there are also a lot of young vaulters that are inspired by these athletes that can come out and get a chance to see some of the top vaulters in the country up close and personal and hang out and learn a little bit and then interact with them. You know, many times in the stadium, the athletes are marched onto the field, they do their thing, and then they're marched out. And there's not a lot of real direct interaction. But here, we allow the fans to get right up close and personal.
Absolutely.
You can see the expression on people's faces. You can interact with people. You can speak with them, and you see Sydney there talking to some of the people that have come out here, and that may be somebody she knows, or maybe somebody that just introduced themselves to her, and they just want to learn. Yeah, instant fans. They want to learn a little bit more. How'd you get started? How many years have you done this? And all those kind of questions. So it looks like Sandy's just about ready to go here.
So this will be her second attempt at 4 meters 80. That's 15.9.
Second attempts have been pretty magic for her all day.
They sure have been. Yep, she had second attempt clearances at 465 and 450. Passed at 460. So this is her third height. Second attempt at this height. This is a big one, 4 meters 80. Only 9 women in the world have jumped this height or better this year. Morris is one of them. And another Beale. So just not liking that one, Jeff.
Yeah, there's a possibility that she maybe made a change of the pole that she was jumping on and not quite feeling that pole is moving well enough and not able to complete the jump. So we'll see here as she moves to her third attempt what adjustments she might make. we're going to get a chance to take another look at that. And you see she's running very fast on the runway, and there's nothing that really stands out on that jump other than as she takes off the ground. The rhythm just wasn't quite there to finish the jump.
She is so fast, and you mentioned it earlier. It's something I've noticed about her before. She's known for that, right, for her speed. And you talked about energy transfer. I think you described it so well that the faster you go on the runway, as long as you can sort of transfer that into the pole, the more successful or the more likely you are to be successful at your clearance. And she is just so speedy. I imagine that there is a delicate balance between working on the speed and making sure that you're fast, but also, of course, the minute changes in the technique and the power involved too. And did you work a lot on your speed as a vaulter yourself?
I did. I actually got kind of a hard lesson early in my career where someone said, you know, you're jumping pretty high for as slow as you are. And,
wow.
And I really took that to heart because it was somebody I respected. And I said, well, that means my technique must be pretty good for how much speed I have. And really that's by comparative analysis, looking at what all the other vaulters in the world do that can do about the same thing. And as a vaulter, we measure speed in meters per second. It's a kind of an obscure thing. We're thinking miles per hour or kilometers per hour or something like that. We measure the speed in meters per second. But the way you start, unlike the 100 meters where the start is so critical to develop that acceleration, the pole vault, you can start essentially as slow as you want. And you build the speed down the runway with each successive step. And it's hard to accelerate fast while you're carrying a pole and holding on to the end of a 16 or 17-foot pole. So the acceleration is more progressive, but it's that maximum speed across the takeoff step and into the air that really determines how well you can, how high you can go. Simple physics.
Incredible, and I love that. Simple physics, and yet it is so complex in other ways. And we're seeing Memphis Fire there. And they might just be on standby to attend to any fire emergencies that we might have with our men, because you better believe that they're bringing the heat in just about half an hour's time. We just saw Sam Kendricks being interviewed on site here by Serenity Douglas. Of course, Kendricks, the favorite. He's coming in as the reigning champion and 2016 Olympic bronze medalist, multiple-time world champion. I mean, this man's credentials are also laundry list long, and we won't get into all of them yet. We still have our women's to wrap up, but there is so much to look forward to by way of our men. Who outside of Kendricks gets you excited?
Well, Chris Nielsen is the obvious next person. Having just made our Olympic teams, Sam was actually the winner at the Olympic trials, jumping 19.4. I actually went with Sam to Paris last week for the Diamond League meet, and Sam jumped 19.6 there, which was his best performance of the year. So we know Sam is ready to go as we get close to going back to Paris again here in just a couple weeks' time. Chris Nielsen, silver medalist from Tokyo, silver medalist from the World Championships, bronze medalist from the World Championships last year. His consistency and strength has been really, really good. We also have Casey Lightfoot, Keaton Daniel, young athlete, just finished his senior season at the University of Kentucky, where he was back-to-back outdoor NCAA champion. That's something that hasn't been done by a lot of the top vaulters. And the entire field today has jumped over 19 feet. Every single guy in the field has jumped over 19 feet. So it's really going to be a battle. And really and truly, any of these guys can win. So the top guys really have to be on their game.
Well, talk about depth. That is so much to look forward to. You don't want to go anywhere. You certainly don't want to go anywhere in the coming seconds here, because this is going to be third and final attempt for Rio Olympic silver medalist Sandy Morris. She is looking to clear on her third time of asking, 4 meters 80, 15.9. This is a big one.
And Sandy really is one of those athletes that when it comes down to a third attempt, it's just as good as a first attempt. Very rarely do I ever see Sandy where she's not focused and capable of pulling out her best jumps. As a matter of fact, sometimes she's even better on a third attempt just because she's that much more determined than she was on the other two.
Well, that is a quality you love in any athlete, but certainly a pole vaulter. So the thunder sticks are clapping. The crowd is getting behind this attempt, appreciative of one of the best in the world, one of the best all time in the U.S. Third attempt for Sandy Morris. You know, she was only 4th at this meet last year. Already come away with the win, but we always know that she is competing first and foremost against herself. Speedy on the runway and a fabulous effort, but unfortunately it is not successful. So we will say goodbye to Sandy Morris, and certainly much more to come. She takes a bow, and you can hear what this means to this audience on site to have the privilege of watching this woman compete.
And I'm sure she'll be happy to end this competition with a new meet record and a win. Last year she was a little disappointed finishing 4th place because she's always a strong competitor and she wants to be on top of that podium each time. So I think this will be something she'll be happy about, and a great 3rd attempt there. All right, we're going to get a chance to take a look at a replay of that attempt. And you see much better jump, much better contact to the pole right off the ground. The jump kept moving, and she was able to finish that jump successfully, and unfortunately just a little bit short on being able to get around the bar.
We talked about how much she appreciates a good crowd, how much she interacts with everyone, and always happy to give an interview. You can hear the appreciation from everyone here on site on Beale Street. We appreciate Serenity Douglas for doing this interview, and Sandy for coming out yet again, coming away with a win this time at the 2024 Ed Murphey Classic. So that will conclude our women's competition here on Beale Street. We are about 29 minutes away from the start of our men's competition. As we've been talking about, lots of excitement and thrilling depth in our men's field yet to come. Don't go anywhere. You are watching the 2024 Ed Murphey Classic, the penultimate stop on the American Track League Tour. And as you mentioned, Jeff, as the sun goes down, things are going to cool off a little bit by way of temperature, but they're just going to grow in terms of the heat of excitement with our crowd.
Yeah, and something some of these athletes don't think about is that sun starts to set. It's actually setting behind the pit. So some of the athletes are going to have to run into a little bit of a blinding sunset, but hopefully that won't cause them any problems as they get to warm up. We do have a little break here, about almost 30 minutes here until we get the men's competition started. And you see as some of the men are doing a final sprints, striders down the runway. Officials are starting to adjust, because what they'll do is they'll put up what we call a bungee crossbar. It's basically an elastic band that gives them a target to jump over through the warm-up. And then they'll be able to choose the height that they want. They put the bar up. They can take their test jumps, if you will, and just get ready to enter the competition.
Well, that bungee will go up. The athletes will have their warm-up jumps, and we'll bring you all of the action in just about 25 minutes' time. I'm Kate Van Buskirk, and you're joined by myself and Jeff Hartwig here on Beale Street for the 2024 Ed Murphey Classic. Don't go anywhere. So we're getting set next up on Beale Street for our professional men's pole vault as part of the 2024 Ed Murphey Classic. You see our athletes taking their warm-up jumps here under beautiful sunny skies, hot temps. That competition's set to start at 7:30 Central Time. That is just about 18 minutes from now. And it was in a new meet record, Sandy Morris taking the win here in a small but talented field. Morris clearing 4:65. That's 5:3 for the new Ed Murphey Classic record. And momentarily, we are going to hear from her courtesy of our on-site MC and interviewer, Serenity Douglas. So we'll throw things over to Serenity Douglas, who is on site with our 2024 Ed Murphey Classic winner, Sandy Morris.
All right, congratulations on the big win, the meet record 465, Sandy. And I saw you just counting yourself down the runway. It was pretty tough at first, but how were you able to accomplish it today?
You know what? You just have to focus on the run and dial that in and just hit it like a freight train, and the rest happens. And if you hit the run right, the rest of the vault is pretty easy.
Now, obviously, 2 weeks ago in Hayward, it didn't go how you would have wanted, but you are such a good sport about everything, and you were able to come back out here and put your best foot forward. Talk to me about your motivation.
I mean, my motivation is a career is not just one performance. You know, I've been doing this now professionally since 2015, and my goal was always to be globally competitive for a decade. Next season will be that for me, and you know, this season has been a tough one for me, but I know that I still have more in the tank, and I'm building my confidence back brick by brick, honestly. And in the pole vault, you cannot not have confidence. That is the main thing. And so today I learned some things. I got a little bit better, and you know I have more meets this season, and it's just building it back one little bit at a time.
And this is a completely different setup than what you're used to. This is not a normal runway. We're out here in the middle of Beale Street. So talk to me about how your preparation is a little bit different. She's celebrating already, y'all. So how's your preparation different to be out here on the street?
It's just about having fun, honestly. It's kind of like a glorified practice, and it's nice because there's no pressure. People are cheering for you. It's like a pole vault party. So, you know what? It doesn't really matter how you perform. You just want to put on your best show, have fun, interact with the crowd, and show everybody a little bit of pole vaulting.
Now, how are you going to celebrate this win today?
I'm just going to stick around and watch the men vault because there are some impressive men in this field, including Sam Kendricks, the best American right now, and he's about to head to Tokyo soon. And I'm going to stick around and cheer for them and have a beer or two.
As you should. And obviously, he's going to be competing against the best in the world. You know, Chris Nelson, Matt Ludwig. So it's going to be a great competition. But thank you so much, Sandy.
Thank you for having me. And stick around if you're out here. Watch the men jump tonight.
All right, Kate, back to you.
So we are about 15 minutes away now from the start of the professional men's pole vault here on Beale Street at the 2024 Ed Murphey Classic. You want to stay around because we have an enormous slate of men coming up to put on a show for everyone. But before we get there, we've got some footage from yesterday's excitement on track here as part of the track, part of the Ed Murphey Classic. We're going to throw to a thrilling men's 1,500-meter invitational where we saw a meet record go down.
Miss Bove is in this field, a 23-year-old from Franklin, Tennessee, and Middle Tennessee, an LSU Tiger, who has competed in triathlons since he was a high in this men's 1500. And here comes Henry Wynn with Kip Koech right to his outside. The long distance strength of Sean McGorty hanging out here in this top 3 as well. Suleiman, he's got the grimace, and he was not going away. This is a grandstand finish in the men's 1500. Henry Wynn, Justin Kip Koech. Sean McGorty says, don't forget about me, but Wynn is gonna take it. Winning again in Memphis. The 2-time defending Ed Murphey men's 1500-meter champion. He won last year. He came back for more. 3:33.33 right off the PB for Henry Wynn.
Well, 3s across the board for Henry Wynn, and you can see with 200 meters to go, the look of determination on his face.
Welcome back to the 2024 Ed Murphey Classic. You're joining us for day 3 of coverage here on Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee. It's been an exciting couple days of competition on the track and the field already, and we just finished our 3rd year of coverage of the women's pole vault here on Beale Street, the street vault. It was superstar Sandy Morris taking top honors. And we are preparing now for our men's professional field, and it is an absolutely stacked field ahead of us. I'm Kate Van Buskirk, and I'm joined by pole vault sensation and world indoor silver medalist, amongst many other things, Jeff Hartwig. Jeff, it was, as we said, a small but mighty field of women, and goodness gracious, do we have excitement coming on the men's side.
It sure was. I mean, Sandy Morris proved to be the class of the field once again, and we got to see a new meet record, but with the men here, we really have something special. All 9 of our competitors have jumped 19 feet or higher this year, and 2 of our Olympians headed to Paris here in the next couple weeks. It's truly going to be a night of great pole vaulting.
It has been a very hot day. We've been talking about it a lot, but the crowds have not been deterred. So the second to last stop on the American Track League here in Memphis. Puma, of course, our title sponsor. We thank them for all of their contribution to our sport. And, well, we had an Olympic medalist in the form of Sandy Morris in the last event in the women's, and we have multiple Olympic medalists and 3 current or former national record holders when it comes to the men.
Yeah, we've really got a great field here. Casey Lightfoot, our current American record holder at 1911, just shy of that 20-foot, that magic 20-foot barrier. Sam Kendricks just off of a 19.6 jump last week in the Paris Diamond League, where he finished second to only to Mondo Duplantis. But our U.S. champion this year, Chris Nilsson, finished second at the Olympic trials, headed back to his second Olympic Games. He was a silver medalist in Tokyo, so really a great field. We've also got Keaton Daniel, who just finished 4th, coming off of his senior season in Kentucky. That's really a remarkable performance for such a young athlete to finish 4th in the Olympic trials their first time out. Austin Miller, Cole Walsh, Nate Richards, Zach Bradford, and Matt Ludwig, all 19-footers in great shape right now, so I think tonight's going to be very special.
It will indeed. I remember being here on Beale Street last year, and we had some storms blow in early on. They blew in and blew out. It caused a little bit of disruption initially, but we were able to have a wonderful evening despite that, and surely set for another thrilling night of action here at the 2024 edition.
And we talked earlier about how hot it was, but now as the sun starts to set, we actually are getting some cooler temperatures, which will actually help the athletes. They don't have to fight or spend as much energy trying to stay cool, and they can actually get out there, and warm conditions are great. It's just that extreme heat that really zaps you.
Absolutely. Well, you see a shot there of Sandy Morris. Again, coming off a 4th place finish at this meet last year, comes away as champion in 2024. New meet record for her, and would love to see a meet record here as well. That meet record, we should say, was set by defending champion at this event, Sam Kendricks. He vaulted 582 last year to take top nod. And again, he's looking to defend that title and maybe increase his meet record, but he's going to have some stiff competition along the way.
He sure is. And as these vaulters go through their warm-ups, you see they're kind of doing the same thing we saw with the ladies. They're taking warm-up jumps. They're testing the poles that they're going to hopefully try to jump on, trying to get an assessment of where they might want to start. We've got an opening height of about 17.7, and then we're going to go up over 18 feet at just the second height of the night. And so that'll get the action rolling right away. And probably make most of the athletes probably start at that opening height. But you have different strategies. You have a strategy of a Sam Kendricks who loves to come in low, jump a lot of bars in the competition, and really put on a show that helps him establish his rhythm. You have a few others that might want to be a little more conservative. They may pass that first height, but I think by the second height, we're going to see all of the vaulters jumping for sure.
And that keeps things so exciting for folks here on site, and of course for all of you tuning in. You're joining us, like I said, for the penultimate stop on the Puma the Puma American Track League. Getting ahead of myself here with World Athletics as we prepare towards the Paris Olympic Games in just a couple of weeks' time. And Jeff, you're going to be headed to Paris for those Olympics.
I am. I'm headed over there, Paris, and looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great competition on both the men's and women's side, and just the performance we've seen in the sport of track and field the last couple of weeks. It's really shaping up to be an absolutely incredible show. And we saw some incredible things here over the last couple of days at the Ed Murphey Classic. Some of the best athletes in the country, some that have made the Olympic team, come in here and they're refining their last steps before they head over, because everybody really wants to make sure they go through their routine and feel confident going into the Olympics, because no matter how you look at it, you can't deny the distractions that inevitably happen, and yet you're trying to stay focused to get ready to compete on the highest level.
Well, we have two of those Paris-bound athletes for the U.S. team here with us tonight. Of course, that is Sam Kendricks, 2016 and 2024 Olympian, along with Chris Nilsson, both headed to Paris, first and second, respectively, at the U.S. trials just a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, we're both athletes, Jeff. We know how much that confidence matters, that you can come off of a strong performance like that, and you're sort of sandwiching your performance at the trials ahead of the games, and then you have these opportunities to interact with the crowd in between, but also, you know, make those little adjustments where the stakes are perhaps a bit lower.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a lighthearted atmosphere here, not quite as serious in terms of the overall outcome and the consequences of something that maybe doesn't go so well, but that's not the way these athletes look at it. They're all competitors. Nobody wants to lose, and nobody wants to come off of even a U.S. championship and say, I didn't give my very best. And at the same time, those guys that came up a little short at the Olympic trials, they're saying, hey, I got a little chance to get some revenge on those guys that beat me at the trials. So it's always a competitive situation. And while these athletes are all, for the most part, really good friends off the track, when they step on that runway, it's all business. And they're really trying to get the most out of themselves and achieve the highest level. So it should be an exciting show for sure.
It absolutely will. There you see the defending champion at this meet, Sam Kendricks, looking cool, calm, and collected, and right in front of screen there in that pink kit with the glasses on. We saw him doing some sort of informal coaching earlier with some of our women's athletes. And, you know, Kendricks is just, we talked about the veteran status of Sandy Moore as well. Sam Kendricks, my gosh, I mean, talk about a staple on the U.S. track and field scene generally. But when it comes to the pole vault, he's in great company, but he really is the cream of the crop time and time again.
Yeah, you know, those two are actually about the same age, and they sort of think of themselves as sort of track twins, so to speak. And their stories are fairly similar, very successful college careers that translated into Olympic berths very early in their career, Olympic medals for both of them. And Sam being a little bit special in that he grew up about an hour down the road at Oxford, Mississippi, went to Ole Miss, went to University of Mississippi. So he's a little bit of a hometown favorite here, and he's done some media stuff this week for the Ed Murphey Classic to help try to promote the event and get the word out. And Sam is always a performer. He loves to perform for the crowd, so he likes obviously the energy and the drive that you get from a stadium-type competition, but being out here on the street, he gets a lot better interaction with the fans and the people that sit around to watch him, and always does a great job of entertaining everyone.
One of the best things about this street vault, and I can attest to this because this is the third year that the street vault has taken place here on Beale as part of the Ed Murphey Classic, and I've been fortunate enough to be on site for all 3 of those years. And the first year I was lucky in that I didn't have to work the meet, so I got to just take it in. And, you know, a big track fan myself, but there is a fantastic bar right across the street from the pole vault called World Famous Alfred's on Beale, and the outdoor bar sits just shy of bar height. I should say of pole vault bar height. So the bar is in line with the bar, and the number of people who come out and just sit there and watch, you know, some of the best vaulters in the world. There you get a great shot of it, of Alfred's, and watch some of the best vaulters in the world who have never watched a track meet in their lives, have never taken in the sport at all, and certainly never seen a pole vault. Instant fans, and how could you not be?
Yeah, it's truly a bird's eye view and gives you a little different perspective. You know, if you've ever seen pole vaulting in the stadium from a long distance away, there's nothing like being able to be up close and personal and interact with the athletes, but also to really see the action up close, because it really is spectacular.
And there you're seeing, taking some of his final warm-up jumps on the runway, is Casey Lightfoot, the 2021 Olympian Puma athlete and national record holder. And Jeff, I was fortunate enough last year to be on site when that national record went down at the Music City Track Carnival. In fact, we were talking earlier, we'll talk more about this because I'm fascinated by your perspective, but about the elevated runway that you have to build. Of course, this whole pole vault comes together on an actual street, so you have to build every element of it. I can tell you, the night before the meet, I was out at about 2 in the morning scouring for pallets that we could put under to level this pole vault runway that we built where Lightfoot eventually set the American record. And my goodness, talk about a performer. He is stunning to watch.
Well, unlike a permanent facility, you still have to meet the technical requirements of setting up a pole vault runway. So the people who set up this facility here on Beale Street, they were out here at 7 o'clock this morning building the runway. They have to have it surveyed. It has to meet certain rigorous standards in order to be an official event. The luxury of a portable runway is you can actually choose the conditions that you set it up. You can choose to set it up with the most favorable wind. You can also choose to set it up where the wind is blocked, for instance. So here the buildings sort of become the wind tunnel and hopefully filter our wind down the right direction, because a little bit of wind blowing behind you really does give the vaulter a little bit of an advantage in the way of a little bit more speed on the runway. Here we see Matt Ludwig taking a warm-up jump here. Matt was a 2021 Olympian as well, and Matt's had a very successful career. He just came back from a tour to Europe right before the Olympic trials, came to the Olympic trials this year, made the final and a very respectable showing in the final, and just came up a little short for making the team.
Well, 9 of the best vaulters in the world. I'll echo our in-stadium, or on-street, I should say, announcer, Mr. Dave Milner. As you see, a thrilling warm-up jump there from Mr. Kendricks. And we're going to introduce you to all 9 of these studs in just a moment's time. As we mentioned, Sam Kendricks, the defending champion from Ed Murphey Classic last year. He is the 2016 and now to be 2024 Olympian. Competes for Nike and was the bronze medalist in Rio, 2-time world champion, 3-time world indoor silver medalist. He is the 5th best vaulter indoors and outdoors all time. We were set to start this competition about 6 minutes ago, and these guys just taking the last of their warm-up jumps here. As we talked about it earlier, Jeff, you know, the sun is now below the line of these buildings, and that's going to serve these guys really well, because not only does the energy rise as the lights come on, but of course that heat that is so draining. I can't tell you the parts of my body that were sunburned after being outside on track yesterday for about 10 hours. It's going to be sweet relief for each of these vaulters.
It really will be. The breeze, just with not having the sun, is really cool and refreshing, even though it's a nice warm night. So that'll encourage the crowd to stick around a little bit longer and really give the athletes an opportunity to jump really high. You know, we just saw Casey Lightfoot there over a bar. That bar is probably about 18 feet high. That's a good test height for a lot of these vaulters to get warmed up and make sure they're on the right pole. Make sure they're on a pole that they can suitably start the competition and hopefully have a successful jump first trip down the runway.
Well, I'm getting word that we're awaiting confirmation on opening height here, but it is set to be 5 meters 37 for opening height.
Yeah, that's about 17.7.
And I appreciate that, because as a Canadian, I measure things in meters, and Jeff, I love that you can help me out with the feet and inches. We'll make sure that we keep you updated on all of the technical information here on Beale Street, and of course the excitement of the competition itself. And we talked about the road miles took place earlier. We talked about how sometimes it just comes down to racing. You don't always get the feedback, and I know that the track is different from the field in so many ways, but I wonder how many times you just thought about, as we're getting confirmation that 5:37 will be the opening height, how many times you thought, I'm just going to compete, rather than being, you know, ultra focused on the technicality or on the height that you're jumping.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes you've got to sort of cut your head off a little bit. You got to just step away from all the stuff you work on practice every day and say, I'm just going to go out there and compete to the best of my ability. And as we say in the pole vault, you play the game. You know, you're feeding off of the energy of the crowd. You're feeding off the energy of your other competitors and the makes that they have. And while we didn't have quite as big a field on the ladies' side, we have got a really good size quality field here. And I can assure you, some of these guys are going to get into a rhythm, and we're going to see a lot of jumps. It's going to be a competitive event tonight.
So we have several returning athletes from last year's competition. We've already mentioned Sam Kendricks, defending champion from the 2023 Ed Murphy Classic. We've also spoken a lot about him too. Chris Nilsson's coming back as the silver medalist from this meet last year. Cole Walsh was 7th, and Casey Lightfoot was 3rd. So top 3, all of the podium spots returning. And I'm sure each of them, other than Kendricks, looking to shake up the order of that podium.
Yeah, and as I was talking to some of the guys earlier today, we were talking that last year the Ed Murphy Classic served as the last tune-up before the athletes that went to the World Championships in Budapest got to go do their thing. And Chris Nilsson came in here, finished 2nd behind Sam Kendricks, who unfortunately didn't make the team last year. But Chris carried that momentum from his 2nd place finish here right into Budapest and actually captured the bronze medal. So he's been able to achieve medals in multiple international championships, which is really a testament to his greatness as a vaulter.
Absolutely. The list of accomplishments in this field is longer than we probably have time to make mention of, although we'll try to pay tribute to each of their accolades throughout the entirety of this competition. 3 Olympians returning. Make that 4 Olympians. Pardon me.
Yeah, 4 Olympians, including Matt Ludwig, are here competing tonight. So this is really a great show.
And we're going to get set to intro our athletes, but you made a point earlier that I wanted to touch back on, is that, you know, this is an opportunity for fans and especially kids to interact with the athletes, and that doesn't always happen. You know, I've run a lot of these sort of post-trials meets when I didn't make a games that I was gunning for, where as a track athlete, as a mid-distance runner, they kind of created the track tunnel. So the fans were invited to come down onto almost lane 3 and just surround you, and the amount of noise that you heard and the energy that was created when you were that intimately connected with your audience was really something special. And I've spoken with so many of the vaulters here over the last couple of years who say the exact same thing about the energy transfer. We talk about energy transfer from the runway to the pole. Well, I think that happens here as well, from the audience to the competitors.
Yeah, for sure. And earlier today, I was walking on the back of the runway with Sandy Morris, and somebody that was just walking by said, "Hey, you're jumping tonight, right?" And she said, "Yes, I am." She said, "Okay, I'm cheering for you." And that's really a motivation for the athletes. And it's remarkable how, as we're sitting here watching this event, the number of people that'll pass by and they'll pull out their cell phones and they'll take a short video or they'll take a picture of these athletes. And for sure, they're sending those things to people saying, "Hey, you're not going to believe what I'm watching down here on Beale Street."
Totally. Well, we see a couple of those kids on screen right now, and these are memories that they'll take with them for the rest of their lives. They'll say, you know, what was your first memory of the sport of track and field? It was middle of the summer, being on Beale Street and watching some of the best athletes in the world strut their stuff.
Well, so many people come down here for the great food and the music and the blues and all the history that is Beale Street here in Memphis, Tennessee. And to be able to see something very unique and different for the locals that are down here on a regular basis, I'm sure it sort of mixes up their night as well.
So we're getting ready for intros here for our competitors in the 2024 edition of the Ed Murphy Classic Street Pole Vault. Again, we have 9 competitors taking part, all of them capable of taking home top marks. And we're going to start with our defending champion from this meet from last year. He is a multiple-time Olympian, 2016 Olympic bronze medalist, 2-time world champion. This is Mr. Sam Kendricks. He's going to be joined by a slew of worthy competitors, the first of which, the 2nd Olympian in this field, Tokyo Olympian, 5th at the Olympic trials last month. This is Mr. Matt Ludwig. He was 5th at those trials as a personal best of 590 from 4 years ago. Zach Bradford is our 3rd athlete, only 24 years old. He is the 2nd youngest athlete in the field. He was at the 2019 World Championships, And he is getting some good high fives from Mr. Ludwig and Kendricks there. Our third Olympian of the field, the silver medalist from Tokyo in 2021, third last year at the World Championships, Chris Nilsson, representing Nike. Nate Richards is going to be our fifth jumper in succession, 29 years old. He is a three-time ACC champion, went to Notre Dame, and he is looking to cement himself in the history books here at the Ed Murphy Classic. He's going to be joined by Keaton Daniel, the youngest athlete in the field, only 23 years old. He was fourth at the trials, achingly close to making that team. 2024 NCAA indoor and outdoor champion. Our seventh jumper in order is going to be Cole Walsh. He was seventh at this event last year. He was third at the 2018 U.S. Outdoor Championships. Third at the U.S. Indoor Championships this year is our eighth jumper. This is Austin Miller, who is in the right place because wants to have a career in music when this whole track and field thing is done. We'll talk more about that, but certainly plays well to the crowd. And rounding out our field, last but certainly not least, is the current U.S. national record holder, make that area record holder. He jumped an astounding 6:07 at the Music City Track Carnival last year. He was fourth in Tokyo in 2021. He was third here last year, Mr. Casey Lightfoot. And looking like he might have been considering taking a page out of Austin Miller's playbook, but decides better. Well, like I said, I could go on and on. We both could about the list of accolades for each of these men. But needless to say, we are in for a great show here. Opening height will be 5 meters 37.
All right, looks like our officials do have the bar up here at our starting height of 17.7, 5 meters and 37 centimeters. And they'll be getting these guys started right away. As I've said, Sam Kendricks likes to jump here, so I bet you we will see him getting this show started.
Well, Kendrick's one of 3 men in this field who have eclipsed that, and you got to, again, forgive me for my metric measurements here, but eclipsed that 6 meter height. So 6:06 is Kendrick's best. That, of course, was a former national record back in 2019. The other 2 vaulters over 6 meters are Nilsson at 6:05 indoors from 2022, and then, of course, our current national record holder, Casey Lightfoot.
Yeah, when we talk about that 6 meter barrier, it's like to give somebody perspective. A lot of times people say, well, how long are their poles? Well, their poles are about 5 meters long. And the box that you plant the pole into is about 20 centimeters or 8 inches deep. So in many cases, these guys are jumping nearly 4 feet higher than the actual length of their pole. And that's really remarkable when you get to see it up close and personal.
It sure is, and you'll get a good sense of that here with our fantastic camera crew on site on Beale Street. I have a feeling that we're going to move fairly quickly through these opening heights. Kendricks, unlike Morris, choosing to take this first height. And we saw Morris take a pass at the first 3 heights. So Kendricks employing the opposite approach here, Jeff.
Yeah, and you see the indicator board in the background there with the 70 on it, and that's the depth setting for the standards. So that's 70 centimeters from the back of the box. He can push those standards back, and that's really where he just determined that is a good spot for the peak of his jump. Makes it a more comfortable jump. And Sam does like to jump. He figures, well, if I'm going to take jumps, I might as well take the jumps that count. He'll start at an open height many, many times in many of the competitions he goes to, even if the intention is to fully be still in the competition at the end.
Well, Kendricks has the 4th best vault in the world this year. That is 595. Should make easy work of this, and he does that. What a showman, my goodness, Jeff. The amount of daylight between him and that bar was astounding.
Yeah, you never want to say it's easy, but Sam comes the closest to making it look that way.
And he does that routinely. He's such a gamer. He shows up when it matters and makes the crowd enjoy every moment of it. So our second jumper in succession will be Matt Ludwig, but first let's take a look at that fantastic first clearance by Kendricks.
And as you can see, Sam very fast on the runway. He transitions that speed into the takeoff, and so he carries a lot of energy through the top, and that's how they achieve those 4-foot push-offs above the top of the pole.
Now, I've got to ask, I'm going to use this term, and it's absolutely not technical, but it looked like there was a lot of hang time. You know those cartoons where the character doesn't realize that the plane has fallen apart until they look down, and that's when they fall? That's what I see happening with Kendricks. He just sort of gets up and over that bar, and it looks like he sits there for a minute, and then he's telling gravity, I'm ready to come down now.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is you're trying to cast yourself off the end of that pole, and you're sort of getting pushed off the end of it like a lure on the end of a fly rod, you know, and you get flicked up in the air, and it does seem like you're kind of floating for a second before that gravity kicks back in and carries you back down to earth.
So first attempt here by Matt Ludwig also looks again like he just hangs there for a while, deciding when he wants to come down to the mat, making easy work of it. So the 28-year-old successful first clearance, he comes in with a best of 590. That's from 4 years ago, and he has jumped 575 indoors this year, and coming off that, as you mentioned, very respectable fifth place finish at the Olympic trials last month.
Yeah, Matt really showed up at the Olympic trials this year, and he really showed that he is one of the top guys. His technique is very solid. He was able to come in and really be in the hunt all the way till the very end of deciding who was on the team. Here we see another great clearance by Zach Bradford. Once again, these guys are already in that rhythm. That was the purpose of the warm-up, and here we're seeing just repetitive clearance after clearance, and that's going to make that's really the setup these athletes are looking for to get them ready for those higher heights when they really start to battle with each other.
So Bradford, with that successful clearance, is really amongst the men. He's only 24 years old. He was a competitor at the 2019 World Championships, but was only in his first year out of being a junior at that point, was second at the World U20 Championships in 2018. And speaking of the men, here is Mr. Nilsson. That is Chris Nilsson making light work of this first bar. He was second here last year, and he is Paris bound. And he's pretty happy with that.
And Chris is pretty much of a showman himself. He likes to play to the crowd and interact with the other competitors and really put on a show. Back to Zach Bradford, he grew up in Illinois, spent a couple years at the University of Kansas, transferred to Texas Tech, and he's one of the guys that I think everybody looks like. All the veterans look at him and say, okay, this is a guy with a bright future that's going to be a strong competitor for years to come.
Next up on the runway, we are going to have Keaton Daniel.
Nope, this is Nate Richards.
And I'm sorry, that's Nate Richards. Pardon me, tracksmith, of course. So Nate Richards, I'm getting ahead of myself. 29-year-old out of Illinois, went to Notre Dame, multi-time ACC champion, and tied his personal best, I should say, this year. And again, just glides over that bar, makes it look so easy. I know it's not, but that is a glorious thing to watch.
Yeah, these guys make this look so easy, and Nate actually trains with the 2000 Olympic champion Nick Hysong down in Phoenix, Arizona. He's one of the proteges of Nick, and so is Cole Walsh. So it's kind of the schools of vault that continue to produce top vaulters. All right, now we're going to see Keaton Daniel up for his first attempt. And Keaton's a new pro, having just graduated from the University of Kentucky. And he shows why he's able to come in here and get in the mix with the rest. And you see Chris Grimes, his coach there, was actually his coach at the University of Kentucky, continuing to coach him. And that will bring us to Cole Walsh for his first attempt. So we have yet to have a failure. Makes easy work for our officials.
It sure does, and for us as well, and for everyone on site. I mean, you want to just keep the streak going. Hope we haven't jinxed it here, and we shouldn't have said anything. I knew it. It's like if you want a sunny day, show up with an umbrella. You're guaranteed for it. So Walsh is the first one to miss at this opening height. Very experienced jumper as well. He's third at the 2018 U.S. Outdoor Championships. Two-time All-American for Oregon. And has a season's best of 567. You're going to convert that for me.
About 18.7. So Cole's jumped. He's another one of our competitors who's jumped over 19 feet. And Cole has had a couple of small injuries the last couple of years, so he hasn't been as consistent as he could be. But you know, the fight continues, and he's going to continue to get stronger and get better into the future. Our next competitor is Austin Miller, and he's really one of our showmen here tonight. He does a great job of playing to the crowd. He loves these type of events. He jumps in quite a few of them over in Europe, and he really likes to keep the crowd engaged, so that they're cheering for him.
He does a fantastic job of it. As I mentioned earlier, he is looking to pursue a career in the music industry after he retires from vaulting. He's worked with several production companies. He actually writes music and has a past life as a security guard at multiple prestigious music venues, and obviously likes splitting his time between his multiple passions. He's third at the 2024 Indoor Championships. So it looks as though Casey Lightfoot has decided to pass at this opening height, meaning that Cole Walsh will make his second attempt here at 5:37. That is 17.7.5.
Yeah, so with that pass by Casey Lightfoot, Cole Walsh is up pretty quick again here. So he's going to have to kind of do a quick turnaround, but sometimes that's what you need. You're already in the rhythm. You know what you need to do. We'll see if he can make the adjustments to make a successful vault. And he does.
Beautiful. Well, if you ever have to seek redemption after a first-time failure, that was it. Absolutely. Well done, and nice dismount there. Full points from the judges for that dismount, and looks, I think, a bit relieved to have joined the club with the rest of his competitors.
Yeah, so just that quick, we are already through our first height of the night. All 9 competitors still alive in this competition, with only Casey Lightfoot left to come in. That bar is going to go to about 18.1, 5:52, and we will go up progressively from there.
So as you mentioned, Lightfoot, the only athlete opting to pass at that opening height, and I'm always curious about this. We've talked about the camaraderie between these guys, and they travel together. There's no camaraderie outside of the decathlon like there is in the pole vault. I've seen that time and time again. These guys know each other so well. It's a tight-knit group. I got to imagine, though, there's a little bit of a flex and some mind games going on when it comes to, well, you all tried that first one. I'm going to take a pass.
Yeah, I kind of like to, I prefer to refer it to as good-natured razzing. And
all right.
They'll talk a little trash to each other, but it's all in good fun. And I think ultimately, because you are competing against the crossbar as much as you are your fellow competitors, the seasoned veterans realize that there's nothing really they can do to affect another competitor's performance. They can only affect their own performance. So they can have fun with each other in between jumps, and yet hopefully maybe get the other guy off his game a little bit if he can.
Right. And at the end of the day, you'll take a group photo on the mat and cheers to a well-done competition. But this will be Sam Kendricks now as he's making his way, walking up the runway. Bar will be raised to 5 meters 52. That's 18.1 and a quarter. So practice run up there by Lightfoot, just keeping limber and making sure that he is in touch with his steps.
Yeah, and Casey struggled a little bit recently with some small Achilles issues, and so that may be part of the reason for his pass at the first height. He knows that, obviously, as we saw, that first height's not going to achieve anything in this competition with this field, so he chooses to save his energy, and he'll be back in this round.
So first attempt here for Kendricks at our second height, and makes it look as easy as the first. The thing I love about the pole vault is the ability to celebrate before you've completed the jump. I just think that moment of hang time in the air, it must feel exhilarating that you can celebrate on the way down from a clearance.
Yeah, and we see a variety of celebrations from fist pumps to pointing and all kinds of things in the air, and it really makes it exciting to see the athletes being able to express themselves after a successful jump.
I should give some kudos now at this point to my country women, Alicia Newman and Annika Newell, who both had very successful outings at our Canadian Olympic trials recently. And talk about celebrations. I think Alicia Newman's one of my favorite athletes to watch because she wears her heart on her sleeve and you see everything, and she really gives so much of herself to the audience. And we see that with almost all of these men. You talked about being great showmen, but they also engage with the energy of the crowd and bring everyone into their celebration.
Now we'll see Matt Ludwig up for his first attempt at 18-1. And another successful jump.
And a flex from him as well. Wave and salute. He's happy with it. He has such extraordinary musculature, and of course the athletes range in terms of how they sort of recruit their power, should I say. But he really he looks like he could do just as well on the, as a gymnast as he does on the pole vault.
Yeah, and that's kind of the beauty of this event. There is no prototype that's a guaranteed success for the event. You see some athletes that are a little thinner, a little more lean. You see others that are a little more stocky, a little more muscular, and yet both can be extremely effective at being good pole vaulters.
Well, add to that list Zach Bradford, first time of asking. He has a successful attempt here at 18-1. That is 5 meters 52. So that puts Olympian Chris Nilsson on the runway. Dialed in, but always a fun time, and puts on a great performance. Another very quick athlete on the runway and glides over that bar.
And with so many successive clearances, we don't have a lot of time between jumps. The athletes know it, and even though they are given 1 minute to initiate their attempt in good conditions like that, many of the times, as soon as the vaulter that's going before them in the order starts down the runway, they're already going through that preparation period, and then it's just a quick adjustment of the standards by our officials, and the bar is set and ready to go, and the athletes are able to run down and go.
The interesting thing here, too, is that these vaulters are competing into a setting sun. Not directly, but that, I imagine, would be a bit of a factor. You're having to contest sort of the visuals of it, and it'll dip below the horizon shortly, but for the few moments that it's there, I remember this last year was a bit of a challenge at times for these athletes to make sure that they were jumping right when the sun was not in their line of sight.
Yeah, and some will even carry sunglasses, and they'll wear a pair of these sports sunglasses that form fit to your face, and that sort of helps keep the sun out of your eyes and allows you to focus, because not only are you trying to achieve the maximum amount of speed down the runway, but you've got to time up the pole plant into that box, and that requires you to be able to see the box very clearly. So sometimes the guys will wear some sunglasses. I think we've kind of gotten past that point. For sure it was affecting them during the warm-up, but now it looks like they're getting past that point, so none of the guys got their glasses on, and they're able to get rolling here.
Well, that was Nate Richards with his first attempt and a failure here at 18-1. So the 29-year-old will have to come back for a second attempt, but he sets the stage here for Keaton Daniel.
And with 4 vaulters left to take their first attempt, that'll give Nate plenty of time to sort of reconvene, maybe make some adjustments, give some thought to what he needs to change, and then he'll be back up for his second attempt. But this is Keaton Daniel here for his first attempt at 18-1.
Ooh, and looks like he almost splits the bar as he comes down right on it.
Yeah, he comes down right on that bar, but something just a little bit off. But, these vaulters have done this so many times that there's virtually no situation that they get into in the air that they really haven't been in before, and usually at a much lower height. So they're very well capable of making those adjustments and having a safe landing.
I think about the comparison here between sort of learning how to fall And some of the best cyclists in the world say, I can see a fall coming, and it happens in slow motion, but I've learned how to fall off my bike so I don't get hurt. And I would imagine it's true for these vaulters as well. You can sort of see the proverbial disaster coming, and you can manage it almost sort of frame by frame as it occurs.
Yeah, for sure. We talk about body awareness and spatial awareness and being able to be ready for whatever perspective kind of hits you.
So Walsh there, unfortunately, a miss for him. So he was unsuccessful, the only athlete unsuccessful at our opening height. So too here, but had a great second attempt clearance. So he will join Keaton Daniel.
Well, maybe we'll see Cole like Sandy. It's lucky second
Lucky
attempt.
second, that's right, yeah. An immediate replay. I just love that. I think the advancement in that sort of technical ability, that technology, and the conference that happens. You know, sometimes I like the hockey players, I wish sometimes these athletes were mic'd up so you could hear what was happening behind the scenes.
Well, the technology certainly is a benefit, and even so much that the international rules have changed that allow the athletes to watch video and to get those things because they see the value in the interaction between the athletes and coaches.
Ooh.
And there we see a miss by Austin Miller, in contrast to Cole Walsh's miss where he actually went through the pole, what we call a blow through. Austin comes up a little bit short, plenty of height but coming down on the bar. So both of those athletes will have a chance to make different types of adjustments but hopefully be successful on their second attempt.
Well, he's certainly aerodynamic. He's got the hairstyle for it. So
He sure does. He's cutting through the wind there, no problem.
absolutely.
All right, so this will bring up Casey Lightfoot, who is going to enter the competition at this height. So this will be his first jump of the night.
Lightfoot, the national record holder, 6'7". That was set last year at the Music City Track Carnival. He has a season's best of 5:92 indoors. Fourth in Tokyo last year. Fourth best vaulter all time in the world. Was third here last year, had a difficulty at the trials and looking for redemption, and well, I don't know what you'd call that. I would, if it were me, I'd call it the starfish going over. But makes it clean on his first time of asking.
Casey's a great finesse jumper. He's extremely good with spatial awareness at manipulating his body and adjusting his body positions in the air. So in this case, maybe the pole was a little small, and yet he's able to maneuver his body in order to successfully clear the bar, and he can make adjustments now, and yet he's clean in the competition. No misses so far. So we'll go back to the top of our order with our second attempt, starting with Nate Richards, and we will have four of these athletes taking their second attempts.
We spoke about the camaraderie and the conference that sometimes happens. We just saw a couple of athletes chatting there, and you used a term I love, which is friendly razzing or friendly rivalry, and I imagine that there's a lot of that happens on a regular basis. Did you have that when you were competing, where you would sort of confer with others? I'm sure you had trusted athletes that you could speak with that you knew would give you the straight answer.
For sure, and some of my best friends today are my competitors from years ago, and I stay in touch with a lot of guys, and I think ultimately when you're on the field, everybody needs little bits of information, and sometimes the only one you have out there to really help you is your fellow competitors, and so it's sort of like what's good comes around, goes around. We're going to get a chance to take a second look at Nate's jump here. Made that adjustment that we were talking about from that first attempt. Good enough. He's happy with it. Little brush of the bar, but the bar stays up, so that's a good clearance.
We've spoken so much about physics. It's remarkable to me how much contact can be made with that bar without it falling down, because sometimes you think a whisper of wind could have made it come down, and here's another example of that. Tons of contact, and yet the bar stays up. So a successful clearance there for Cole Walsh, and he's got to be thrilled with that. Keaton Daniel, I'm sorry.
And many of the times what we see is almost baffling, because it seems like the slightest little brush where the bar barely moves and it'll fall off. And then the very next vaulter can hit it and seemingly hit it everywhere. It wobbles around quite a bit, and yet it manages to stay up. And it's
Absolutely.
a little bit of a trick. And for sure, the best way to clear the bar is not to touch it. But these guys are remarkably good at that finesse part of being able to make contact with the bar in a light enough way that it doesn't dislodge the bar from the pegs.
Well, now Cole Walsh will try to follow suit with our last two competitors, and he had great height, but caught it with his arms on the way down, so I'm sure some adjustments will be made, but that looked like it had all kinds of potential.
It sure did. He looks like he made some good adjustments. We're going to take a look at that jump again. From a little different angle, and
but you got a sense of the height. I mean, it was a bit hard to see, but really, it just how high he was above that bar, and maybe just I don't know if it was a relaxation on the way down that was a bit preemptive, but certainly.
And sometimes when you make some of these adjustments, you actually get the result you're looking for, and then
in the wrong way.
In the way it feels like you actually make it, and then you realize you brushed it, and you brushed it enough to be a miss. Here we have Austin Miller over the bar. After that first attempt, miss.
And the strong man likes it. Look at that. We need to get him one of those amusement park sledgehammer games after this. He, I think, would be a good contender for that. But happiness and relief as he communicates with the camera and with the audience.
So once again, in quick succession, we are almost done with this second height with all of our competitors over, with the exception of Cole Walsh, who has his third attempt coming up.
You've mentioned body awareness several times, and I can understand and appreciate to the best of my ability how important that must be. When you're coming over the bar and you're brushing it, do you have a sense more often than not of whether it's going to come down on you if you've touched it? Or is that hard to know in the moment?
Believe it or not, you really can feel that. Sometimes you can feel that the slightest little brush, and it's almost important to not panic, to stay relaxed. To keep your body kind of fluid as you're going over the bar. Because what happens is if you make a quick reaction, that tends to put more pressure into the bar, and that bar is basically a 1-inch fiberglass pole. And it's got a springy effect to it, and so a more abrupt contact with the bar will definitely cause it to spring off those pegs.
That must be so hard to do. Relax through that discomfort and through that potential failure in order to make sure that it doesn't come down. So I'm sure that Cole Walsh will be channeling that now as he is in his third attempt here. Third and final attempt at 5:52. And it's good. Sweet relief for Mr. Walsh as he joins the rest of the field, and the bar will move up to 5.62 meters. That is 18.5 1/4.
And Cole Walsh got it right on that attempt. He looked like basically a replay of the jump before it, but more prepared for the reaction he was going to get off the top of the pole, and a very nice clearance there. So we'll go up now to 5.62, about 18 feet 5 inches. And we still have all of these competitors alive in this competition. So a great night here on Beale Street at the Ed Murphey Classic. Our final event of the Ed Murphey Classic, and what a way to finish, right?
What a way to finish. It is the crowd favorite. It is by far one of my favorites. I've always thought if I weren't a track runner, wouldn't I love to be a pole vaulter? I don't have nearly the coordination or the flexibility to be good at this event, but I can't imagine something more fun than to fly through the air. So we're going to have an opportunity here to review Walsh's final jump, and that was actually his second attempt, perhaps.
That was actually his second attempt.
But to your point, I mean, he made all the right changes and really got it right on the third time of asking.
Yeah, it was nice that we saw that, actually. That kind of gave us a perspective of it was basically a repeat jump. It's just the bar was in the right place on the third attempt. So good for him. He's still alive in this competition, but he's got a little bit of work to do to get back in the mix with the guys that are our leaders.
Well, Walsh does come in with the, shall I say, weakest season's best of the bunch. So 5.67, his best this year. Bar has now been raised to 5.62. So he is struggling a little bit, but manages to pull it out when it matters, and of course that counts for so much. And now the sun has fully set, and the lights are coming on, and this is the view that we want. This is Beale Street approaching its finest. And those uprights being moved back a little bit here. Again, thank you to all of our crew on site doing all this great work to make this event successful. So we'll move back into the beginning of our jumping order with Sam Kendricks taking his first attempt on the runway here at 18.5 1/4. Kendricks comes into the season's best of 5.95. Of course, former national record holder 6.06 and looking for some help here. Would you engage much with the crowd when you were jumping?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. The ability to kind of connect with the fans, and here we see another nice clearance by Sam.
He likes it, and he points to the crowd, thanking them. As a runner, I was always told to sort of relax through the nerves. And you sort of alluded to that with not panicking if you do brush the bar, because that can make a potentially undangerous situation so much worse. And the difference, of course, between being a runner and being a field athlete is I have the strength of a pack around me. I have the energy, but these athletes are going one at a time. And finding that sweet spot between the nerves and still being on enough to sort of harness everything must be really difficult.
And each time you have to sort of collect yourself after each jump. So you get that nervousness to take a jump, but then you've got to refocus, pull it back in, and then deliver the next attempt. And whether it's a miss or a make, you're in anticipation of what comes next, what the next jump is. And yet harness that nervous energy and apply it to the jump, hopefully.
So it is the 28-year-old Matt Ludwig up on the runway right now. First attempt here at 18.5 1/4. And deja vu all over again. It's a beautiful clearance for Ludwig. He is on top of his game right now. He likes it.
And Matt's really found the same rhythm he had at the Olympic trials here just a couple weeks ago, where he finished 5th. Came up a little bit short for making the Olympic team, but our Olympic team is the most difficult Olympic team to make in terms of certain events, and the pole vault is definitely one of them. Any one of our athletes would probably easily make most other countries' national teams, and it's just tough. It's tough to do. And to be able to do that and then regroup and get back over to the Olympics and still compete well is an extra challenge, but it's also a chance for these athletes to be driven to compete because they're competing against the best all the time.
It really is an embarrassment of riches in the best way possible, and almost every interview I saw coming out of those American trials, the athletes said just that. This is the hardest competition. In many cases, it's harder than the Olympics. So, you can only send 3. So sometimes the fields at the Olympic final, at the Olympic trials final, would be as deep as the Olympic final. And that is an incredible situation to be in here in this country.
And you even get that with the strongest of favorites, almost a sense of relief because they managed to get through. And even though they're the overwhelming, prohibitive favorites, they've still got to perform on that day, and they really only have that one chance. And it can go very well, but it can also go wrong.
And it goes well there for Zach Bradford, the youngster, 6-time All-American at both Texas Tech and Kansas. First-time clearance here at 18.5 1/4. He was, as I said, second at the World U20 Championships in 2018 and makes beautiful work of this first attempt.
And we're going to get to see this a replay on this attempt, and as you see, very smooth, very well-executed jump. The energy transfer is extremely efficient.
And quickly we're seeing Nilsson on the runway, and he doesn't waste any time, and he just gets the job done. Thank you, ma'am. On to the next. He's keeping that energy going, running back down the runway towards some water, and I'm sure some cooling packs. The energy remaining high, but so too the heat, despite the sun going down. And so now it is Richards, and he has had a little bit of trouble so far in this competition. One of our athletes who did not have first-time clearances at the last height comes in with a 5.75 best this year. That ties his personal best indoors from 2021.
And Kate, you mentioned earlier the energy that the athletes get from watching their competitors have success. We're seeing a lot of jumps in succession, and I think that is infectious almost. The athletes really keep rolling along. And one after the other, we see a lot of successful jumps. We did see a miss there by Nate. He'll have a chance to regroup here, and we'll have 2 more attempts for him. And that will take us back to Keaton Daniel, who's also had a second attempt clearance at the last height. So he's down the list in comparison with, it looks like he's in 6th place right now. So a little bit of work to do to fight his way back in, but because of that second attempt clearance, this is like new life for him. So he'll have a chance to put himself right back in the mix.
I mentioned earlier that Daniel is the youngest competitor of the field. Keaton Daniel, just 23 years old and coming off of a lifetime best at the trials. And had great height, but springs that bar up on the descent. So making some adjustments as well. You said earlier during the women's competition that it takes 10 years to get it right. Well, 10 years ago, he was barely a teenager. So lots of development yet to come, and impressive that he's able to hang out, with and really compete with the best in this country at such a young age.
It really is. And, one of the things that almost all these college athletes struggle with at this stage of his career is he did just compete an entire collegiate season. Those guys start sometimes in December, but for sure by the second week of January, they're competing. They compete pretty much every weekend, whereas some of our more seasoned veterans, they've got a lot more time off for training and preparation for the summer. And for Keaton to show up at the NCAAs, he won the indoor NCAA meet, he won the outdoor NCAA meet, 4th place with a lifetime best at the Olympic trials. You got to think at some point he's going to probably start to get a little tired, but it certainly shows his talent for being very successful at this level, and definitely a guy to watch in the future.
Such a great point. You and I both know that fatigue is not just physical, but it's emotional and mental too. It's really cumulative, right? So to be able to hold things together and continue to produce great performances, and again, such good height here. Just a bit of a clatter on the way down. So,
and technically a very sound athlete. He's a guy that this height is well within his capability. And as he makes adjustments with his coach, he'll be back again for his second attempt coming up soon.
So it's Cole Walsh now on the runway. And I love when these athletes fold their bodies over the bar like that. It doesn't look like the physics are humanly possible, and yet they come away with it. That is brilliant.
And as we've been talking, Cole was the guy who made the 3rd attempt clearance at the last height, and all of a sudden, a 1st attempt clearance, and he's right back in the mix, and he gets a little bit of rest.
Right. Well, that's the first time I think I've seen him smile so far, so well-deserved smile there for Mr. Walsh as we turn to the strong man, Austin Miller, making his first attempt here. Comes in with a season's best that is also a personal best indoors this year at 590, so certainly within his capability.
And Austin really had a breakthrough season this year. He came in and he jumped a 590, 19.4 and a quarter or so a couple weeks before the U.S. Indoor Nationals. And then he was able to carry that momentum into the U.S. Indoor Nationals. And once again, another example of how difficult it is for the U.S. team. We had a World Indoor Championships this year where we only send 2 athletes, and he actually jumped 19.4 at our championships indoors, which would have been good enough to win every other country in the world's national championships, and yet he got 3rd. And he didn't get a chance to go to Glasgow, where Chris Nielsen and Sam Kendricks went on to have great success, Sam finishing with a silver medal there, and Chris Nielsen in 4th place. So we're very strong, and it's very deep, but it really drives these guys to buckle down and to train harder.
Right.
And we're seeing depth across the board with this group of alters, for sure.
Absolutely. So Casey Lightfoot up now. He is the 7th best jumper in the world this year with his 592 indoors, and getting some good support on side. Clapping in rhythm with the DJ. And Lightfoot over at first attempt.
Easily over the bar there. Actually a little better technical jump than the jump before it. That jump before was probably a little bit of a small pole. I would imagine he's probably gone up a pole for this attempt. So he gets more of that fluid, more natural lifting of his hips up over the bar. and an easy clearance. So I think Casey's in good shape to go a little higher here.
Fluid's a great way to put it. It really does sort of mimic a waterfall when they get it right, as opposed to that more sort of, I don't know how to put it, aggressive bending of the body over the bar. I mean, the contortion that happens is really astounding to me, but when you get it right, man, does it look beautiful. So this will be Richard's second attempt here at 18.5 and a quarter. Good speed on the runway. Good height again, but gives it a tap, and bar comes down. So he'll have one more attempt here. And he is going to be joined in second attempt efforts by Keaton Daniel and Austin Miller.
So we'll have two more second attempts before we bring Nate back up for his third. Keaton Daniel coming up next.
Daniel with a 5.82 best, as I mentioned, setting that at the trials, so coming off of good momentum there as they stand out at Kentucky, transfer out of Fresno Pacific. For Kentucky, he holds both indoor and outdoor school records, unsurprisingly. Third at the NCAA Outdoor Championships in 2022. Second, the NCAA Outdoor Championships in 21, so lots of high-level performing under his belt. And, oh, makes good use of it, but again, just hits the bar, and he is so fast. It's almost as if, again, this is just to my eye, but almost too fast over the bar. It looks as though he's hitting it because he's got so much speed going. It's hard to rein it in.
We're going to take another look at that one. And we see a little bit of a brush. It's almost like he's coming up a little bit short on that jump. And as we mentioned earlier, it could be that he is starting to feel the fatigue of a very, very long season, including the full college season. But at this stage of the game, for Keaton Daniel, experience is what it's all about.
That's
he's out
so
here
true.
competing with these good guys, getting a feel for what it's like to be in the competition with the best guys in the world, the best guys in the country. And it's certainly experience that he'll carry with him forward, moving on.
You can practice a lot, but you can't manufacture experience, as we see Miller going over, and that was a great effort, but not successful for Austin Miller.
And a very close jump for Austin. Just a little bit of loss of awareness maybe at the top of the jump. And it's something that's the balance of the power and the grace all coming together at once, because you're putting so much energy in, and these guys are pretty big guys, 6'3", 6'4", 185, 190 pounds, and that's a lot of
body
to lift 18 and a half feet up in the air.
Well,
and
Miller
yet
in particular
still have the awareness to be relaxed and to get around that bar, and sometimes just the standards are in the wrong spot for where the peak of your jump is. So he'll take all that into account as he adjusts for his final attempt.
So this will be third attempt here for Nate Richards, the 29-year-old out of Illinois. Dialed in and looking for a clean effort. Getting support from the crowd. Good speed. Oh, and a great effort, but we will unfortunately say goodbye to Nate Richards.
Nate Richards. Great speed on the runway. Really good jump. Just a little brush of that on the way down, and just enough to dislodge that bar. So good show for Nate.
So that puts us back to Keaton Daniel, youngest man in the crowd out of Nevada. A little bit of a debrief there with coach for Richards, but it is Daniel now on the runway. And another really great effort, but unfortunately not enough. Jeff, you talked about the experience, and I remember being at the early stages of my career, first or second year out of college, and doing my first really big professional competitions, going overseas, and I still remember those as not only some of my fondest memories, but the learning experiences that allowed me to develop into the athlete that I needed to be to perform the best at that level. And it just takes so much time to get there.
It really does. There's no quick way to get around it. You fight your battles, you pay your dues, each level along the way. And it seems like it's almost like a cycle. You sort of elevate yourself, and then you become kind of the best at your current level, and then that earns you the right to step up to the next level. And then you step up to that next level, and all of a sudden you're kind of the bottom athlete on the totem pole.
That's right.
And now you've got to get used to a little different rhythm, a little different flow in the competition. And as a pole vaulter, you get what's the difficult thing is you get, where we saw Sandy Morris earlier today able to open and be the only athlete alone. For these vaulters, a lot of times they're 1, 2, 3 athletes left when they're at their peak. All of a sudden you're on the international level and everybody's still in.
Totally different.
You've got to learn to be a little bit more patient.
Yeah, and putting to use all of that great experience is Austin Miller. He is the third and final athlete attempting a third-time clearance here.
And when I say Austin's had a breakthrough this year, part of the breakthrough comes from more composure in the big pressure situations where he has a chance to jump against the best guys and keep that energy going in a positive way and not be overwhelmed. And I'm sure it's just like for you in your races, all of a sudden you get into the international level, you step up that level. Well, now all of a sudden the pace is a lot faster than it used to be. And now all of a sudden you're not able to execute your race plan at the same rate that you probably previously were because you've got to play off of other people who are moving a little quicker.
Absolutely. And, I speak with some younger athletes in the mid-distance realms who say, I'm so frustrated. I've been at this, I PB'd this year, but I've been at the same, time standard for months now, and I don't know how to break through. And I say that's always a good thing. If you can plateau, it means that is creating a longer launch pad for whatever's yet to come. And progress is not a steady uphill, right? You have to sort of plateau, sometimes go down a little bit, and that's what launches you to the next level. In this case, quite literally launching you up. And on that note, the bar will be raised now. 1 man out, so 8 competitors remaining, and the bar will go up to 5.72 meters. That is 18.9 1/4.
And I look at that plateau as a new base level, actually. And so it's a better foundation. It's a better foundation to kind of build on to the next layer and to kind of rise up to the next level.
Absolutely.
So as we go to this new height here, we have only got 2 guys out. We are still 7 competitors alive in this competition. And we're back to Sam Kendricks to kick us off here at 5.72, 18.9. We're getting close to that 19-foot barrier.
And he wants all the help he can get. You see Matt Ludwig encouraging the audience as well to get involved in this jump. Kendricks really the class of the field as the veteran. Oh, and brilliant height, but just hits it on the way down.
Yeah, and once again, as we talked about earlier, with making everything on your first attempt, well, that makes you sit a long time between jumps when there's a lot of guys left in the competition. So sometimes you sit around a little bit. Now the feeling is a little different. You got to kind of relax and make some adjustments here. Sam very fast on the runway, very strong on the takeoff, plenty of height. Just put his peak on that jump in a little different spot. Sure, Sam will make the necessary adjustments, and we'll see a clearance on the next attempt.
So Matt Ludwig next up, also asking for crowd support. DJ is hot, so is the energy here on Beale Street in Memphis, and the Tokyo Olympian, who's cleared 5.75 indoors this year. It's very close to this current bar at 5.72, so this would be nearing his season's best. Favorable conditions, a little bit of breeze out there on runway. Second jumper attempting this bar, and also has a little bit of difficulty getting over it. Protects himself as it comes down, and looks like he's trying to karate chop it away.
So while most of these athletes have been over 19 feet this year, we are only a few inches away from that height. And that margin of error starts to tighten up as you get to these higher bars. And even though it seems, well, we only went up 4 inches, that's 4 inches that you have to adjust for, you have to compensate for. And many times we get a chance to see that over-the-bar clearance. And while you see a lot of daylight at certain aspects, you may not see as much daylight in other parts of the jump. So we'll see what Zach Bradford can do here as he attempts his first jump.
His season's best is eclipsed this, 582, and he will be our first successful clearance here. Over the bar beautifully there at 572.
And he's still cleaning our competition. Not a single miss yet. So four heights and 4 clearances for Zach Bradford.
So he is our leader at the moment with that successful first attempt. And Bradford, 6-time All-American, using all of that good collegiate and international experience to his advantage. And now Chris Nilsson, Tokyo Olympian, takes to the runway. He's a 6:05 guy at his best. He has cleared 6 meters indoors this year, and that has got to feel good. He knows that he is well capable of this. Oh, and it looked as though the bar may have stayed up.
Like it was going to stay up, and then all of a sudden it came off. And Chris was our U.S. indoor champion with Sam Kendricks finishing right behind him. Those guys went on to Glasgow and represent the United States very well at the World Indoor Championships, and now they're both going to get a chance to go to Paris and represent us in the Olympic Games.
Well, he looked like he had some words with that bar. He wasn't very happy with it, and I think if that bar was smart, it would listen to him, because I wouldn't want to come up against him. That's for sure. So Nate Richards now, who has done well to stay in this competition. He had a first-time miss at 552, cleared it on second time of asking, took 3 attempts at 562, and here we are at 572. And this would be awfully close to his season's and lifetime best.
And Cole Walsh with the season's best.
Cole Walsh with the season's best. Pardon me, that's right. So great performance for him. So 567, his best coming in. So this is a big improvement on that, and he is being rewarded for it. Got to feel good about that.
And after that third attempt clearance that we saw at 552, he really figured something out on that third attempt clearance, because he's now put 2 back-to-back jumps together, first attempt clearances at the next 2 bars, and he looks very comfortable in this competition.
So Austin Miller will make his first attempt here.
And speaking of third attempts, he was a third attempt clearance at our last height, so he's fresh off of hopefully figuring something out as well.
Having a bit of a conversation with himself as he makes his way down the runway. Oh, great height, just not able to complete the jump.
And if you notice, he drifted right off the ground, and that's something that Austin has had issues with at certain times. And obviously, the clearest way to have a good jump is right down the middle. You got to travel a little bit further, which that energy is running out when you're off center like that. So I'm sure that's part of the adjustments that he's going to try to make to try to line things back out and keep it down the middle.
Well, he certainly can't blame the wind for pushing him on that one. There is little to speak of here. It is not completely still, but it's certainly not enough to put him off kilter. But it doesn't look like there's a whole lot that could phase this guy.
All right, and that'll take us to Casey Lightfoot. Only 2 jumps in the competition so far. So he's first attempt clearances at 18.1 his starting height, 18.5 his second height, and now we are at 18.9.
So Lightfoot again, a 592 indoor season's best. The Baylor alum NCAA indoor record holder there, and current national record holder. Having a good talk there with the pole as he speeds his way down the runway. Oh, and beautiful clearance there for Lightfoot. And he's psyched.
So as we take another look at Casey's jump, you see each jump he's getting a little bit stronger. Nice, easy jump right down the middle. Very successful. So he joins Zach Bradford as our only of one of our 2 competitors who don't have any misses in the competition. So where misses can count against you, these guys are in the lead. We do have information that Zach Bradford's going to pass 577, so we'll see what response we get from Casey as well. But my guess would be Casey would probably pass as well. The next height is after that would be 19.1. And that 19-foot barrier is always important to these vaulters. They love jumping those up those different foot barriers.
So, Jeff, I want to ask you about the tactics being employed here because, as you mentioned, Bradford is the only athlete with a clean scorecard at every height so far, and he is opting to pass now. So he knows that he's got that in his pocket. Is he deciding to conserve some energy and just take all of those wins so far and say, I want to see what plays out before I decide what my next chess move is going to be?
Yeah, I think at this point of the game, he's in a good rhythm, obviously, because he hasn't missed. And so he looks at it and says, okay, I think 582 is within my capabilities. And he also probably believes 577 is not going to be enough to probably win this competition. So he kind of hedges his bet and says, I'm going to put more energy into jumping that 582. We go back to Sam Kendricks here for his second attempt, and you see he's worked things out pretty well. Little brush of the bar, but quite a lot of height on that jump. So as Sam lines things out pretty good here on his second attempt, it looks like he's ready to go much higher. You see Sam talking to his father and his coach there, Coach K as we call him, and he gets a lot of good feedback from Coach K.
And you've worked a lot with Sam, I know, sort of assisting with his development and his on site in various situations, and so you're really attuned to what he's doing and what's happening here. I saw him drift a little bit as well, and he's so dialed in so much of the time. He must be really making these minute adjustments, and it must be a real pleasure to be able to be part of that process. It
is. I feel very honored to have a chance to be part of Sam's team, and Sam and his dad are very deliberate in all the things that they do in training and their preparation, and they train in that way. They train so that if Sam's off a little bit on a jump, he knows the correction to make midair and still successfully get around a bar. And it's really a testament of the work that they've done together as to why Sam has been so successful. And we talk a lot about how good he's been in terms of winning championships and jumping really high. But one thing we haven't talked about is just his overall consistency. He's surpassed everybody in terms of the total number of jumps over 19 feet in his career. And there we see a clearance by Matt Ludwig. Also, another one in a good rhythm here. Figuring things out. He only had that one miss previously on his first attempt, and now with a second attempt clearance, he stays alive in the competition. And just like we said before the meet even started, we're in for something special tonight. So we're going to take another look at this, and once again, another athlete manages to touch that bar with just enough pressure that it doesn't knock it off, and it's a great clearance. So now we go back up to Chris Nilsson for his second attempt. We'll see what adjustment he's made after not having any misses on his first 3 jumps. And Chris figures things out too, so we have another vaulter over 18 feet 9. So that pass by Zach Bradford's looking like a pretty smart move, because with this many guys left in the competition, I think it's going to take a little bit more to be in the top group in this competition. All right, we're going to get a replay of Chris here. Very strong on the runway, very sound technique, and up and over easy at 572.
It's got to be a good sign when you are a competitor attempting your second attempt at this height and you're just laughing on the sidelines there and then bringing the crowd up with you. Austin Miller looking cool as a cucumber and set to go here. The big man, the strong man, second attempt, and he's looking to join the ranks of his countrymen and competitors, all of whom have cleared at second time of asking. Can he make it a quad? And he looked like he was going to.
Close, yeah. But you mentioned that smile that we saw. These guys are having fun.
They are.
Like, this is fun for them. This is a good time, and it is a little bit of a lighter atmosphere with a slight, after coming off the Olympic trials for any country,
Absolutely.
it doesn't matter where you are. You talked about Alicia Newman and Annika Newell. I can tell you they go into those Canadian trials just as nervous as any of the Americans go
That's
into.
right.
And it's the same for the French athletes and the German athletes and the Spanish athletes. And they really have to be on their game to perform at the highest level. And then they get to come do this. They get to come out here, and it's more about entertainment. They're still competing,
Right.
but they're having a good time
They
doing it.
are. And sometimes that draws the best out of you, too. I mean, I think about some of the competitions where I underperformed when it mattered most. And, of course, you want to figure that out and dial it in because that really does count. But coming off of those things and then saying, all right, I didn't make the team. I still have a lot in me. I'm still hungry. The fire's still lit. I want to get the best out of myself. But I'm going to do it in an environment where it is all fun. It is all about just, the entertainment value and the atmosphere. Sometimes that those are where my best came from.
Yeah, the evaluation process is really the same. And the effort you put out's the same.
Right.
It's just a little bit of
different.
a change of a shift in attitude, a shift in thing, and you think, well, why don't you just do that when you're in the championship? And
I think some of the best do, right? They
think-
find a way to harness that.
I think we all wish we could.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. I always look at a start line of a race, especially a mid-distance race, and the person who is sort of, visibly having to calm themselves down, I think, well, if I were a betting woman, that might not be where I'd put my money. The person who is able to wave to the crowd, and even if it's sort of feigned, relaxation, that says something about where they're dialed in and enjoying the experience, knowing what the stakes are.
Well, I'm reminded of Usain Bolt when you say that.
Absolutely.
He came
Yes.
out and it almost puts some people off when he first starts off and he starts posing and he's doing, but he says, you know what, I'm so confident in the ability that I have that I'm going to keep this light for myself and I'm going to come out there and I'm going to show people. But when he goes up in the blocks and that gun's ready to fire,
Yep.
he's all business. And he's really determined to give his best performance. And that's what draws people to it. And they really enjoy
Absolutely.
seeing that for sure.
Well, speaking of enjoying it, there is our very own Serenity Douglas interacting with our crowd and trying to get some personalities to shine here on the side of our pole vault competition. We've got Beale Street closed to traffic, of course, as it is in Memphis in the summer on Saturday nights. And everyone able to come out and enjoy some fantastic top-level competition. The bar has been raised, and we're getting note that Austin Miller has one jump left to go, but after that, there may be several passes. So we have one attempt left here for him, and everyone getting psyched for him to take this final attempt. But to still have 7 men, including Miller, in this competition at this point is quite extraordinary.
Yeah, and I think Austin has decided to take this third attempt here because he says, hey, if I can make this, I can sort of buy myself 3 new attempts at
Right.
the next bar. There's also a strategy that says, well, maybe I'll just pass that attempt and let the other guys do it. That way I got a little more time to regroup.
Well, pressure's on, and as he approaches the bar, unfortunately, it is not going to be a clean attempt. So we will say goodbye to Austin Miller. But what a crowd favorite, and you better believe that you're going to see him again. And he was a standout lacrosse player in high school, I'm told. He actually coaches lacrosse at his alma mater at High Point. So if things don't work out in the pole vault world, he's got lacrosse to fall back on, and he's
right.
a music writer. So he's
Yep,
got lots.
and a music career. That's right. Good to have options. Well, here we go with a replay of Austin's jump, and you can see he just comes up a little short on that jump, coming down on the bar. Once again, after the Olympic trials, a few of these guys might be getting a little tired through the season here, but I know Austin has a good number of meets lined up after the Olympics, so he'll be headed back over to Europe and have a chance to go over there and continue competing through the rest of the summer season. And as we now get ready to go up to the next thing, we talk about the championships. We talk about World Indoor Championships this year and the Olympic Games, which is coming up. And next year we see a shift in the international calendar where the World Championships is actually going to shift to the middle of September. And it's going to be kind of the final the crescendo, if you will, of the track and field season, the last event of the year. So while traditionally what we see is a mix of Diamond League events, which are kind of the pinnacle of our one-day competitions, mixed with other events like the Ed Murphy Classic, and then we see the championships. It kind of falls in the middle, and then we get to see what happens after that. Next year, we're going to see that shift, and the World Championships moves to the middle of September. So that's really going to change the strategy that athletes use to prepare for the season, because they're saying, hey, the best, I got to be the best at the end. And it'll be an interesting shift. I know that the U.S. Championships next year is actually late in July, which is unusual. We're used to having it sometime in June, as we do. But the international competition committees have done a really good job of coordinating national championships to be all around the same time. So all the athletes internationally are going through the same preparation, and we'll see what we do next year as far as the Ed Murphy Classic goes, and coming back here to Memphis again.
Such great points, and I want to talk more about them, but I do have word that we are skipping the next height altogether. So every athlete choosing to pass at 5 meters 77, that is 18.11 and a quarter, means the bar is going to go all the way up to 5 meters 82, 9.1 and a quarter.
Well, I know you look at the metric there, and you see 572, 577, 582, and that just seems like a natural progression. But for an American, 18.11 is no good. Nobody wants to jump 18.11. So
give it up.
577, that's out. We're going to all pass, and everybody's going to 19.1, because that's that magic 19-foot barrier that all of them want to clear and all the fans want to see.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, every man in this competition, a 19 guy at their best, or better, 19 or better, I should say. And here we are, 19.1 and a quarter. Kendricks will be our first vaulter. 5.95, his best this season. 6.06 at his best. That's an astounding height. And we are in full darkness now by way of the sun having set, but man, are things lighting up here on Beale Street. And it's so fun for us, you know, to be here and to enjoy this energy too. We're, of course, speaking to what we're seeing on screen, but really soaking up the energy on site, and it's been bumping, and you can expect it to continue, and these athletes really feel it.
Yeah, for sure, but yet you see how focused Sam looks on this jump. You know, he had a first attempt miss at the last height, so he's actually in third place, but he realizes a first attempt clearance here puts him right back into the top group there, because he realizes that a lot of the athletes are reaching kind of their maximum level, and this is going to be an important bar in terms of deciding the final placings.
And that's such a great point. It's interesting about the stamina and the endurance required to be able to continue clearing height after height here, as Kendricks goes up and gives it a clack, and it looks like it'll stay, but it doesn't. You can see exactly what you just said there. I saw in his reaction. He thought, I was so close, and what would it have meant to have had that? And yet it comes down.
Yeah, once again, that peak was well in excess of the bar. We're going to take another look at it, and you see how he pikes his hips up and actually has quite a bit of height, and sort of pins that bar against the standard with his quads. And a lot of times you slip right past that bar, and it wiggles a little bit, but it'll stay up. And I think he thought for a second it was going to do that. And then all of a sudden it comes down. So once again, he's got plenty of height. We'll see what happens on his second attempt.
And so we are going to see Matt Ludwig up next. Now, this would be a season's best for him. We are vaulting in my money, 5 meters 82. His best this season, 5.75 indoors. He's a 5.90 guy at his lifetime best. So this is getting awfully close to this. And, you know, you said something that I'm noticing immediately. There is a big shift all of a sudden in the energy of these guys. I'm sure they're still enjoying themselves, but the focus is obvious. And now it is time to get down to business.
Yeah, the game faces are coming out, as they say. He's a little more focused. Sam was a little more focused, and partly because it does take a little bit more of a precise effort. You know, they can get away with some mistakes at those lower bars, at 18.5, 18.1. These guys are all well within their ability to make a mistake and still get a successful clearance. But you get up over 19 feet, and that window tightens up pretty bad.
I think about that with, you know, the closer my personal best got to 4 minutes in the 1500, those tenths of what used to be seconds became tenths and then became, hundreds, and things got a lot more serious. And here we go with the first attempt for Matt Ludwig. And looks like he hits it on the way up, Jeff.
Yeah, he does. He kind of drops out on that jump, and once again, we're talking about this would be his season's best jump of the year for Matt. So he's got to really be focused and really hit it, and I'm sure as we look at that jump again, he's trying to figure out how to harness that energy and keep everything moving, and sometimes it just runs out of energy.
And for context, we should mention that this height, 5 meters 82, is the meet record set by Sam Kendricks last year. So that gives you some idea of exactly how difficult it is to achieve this standard. Yeah, so anyone who clears this would match it. And now we see Zach Bradford making his first attempt at exactly that task. Wow!
Another successful jump. So he is still no misses. So it turns out that pass was pretty prophetic, and he is over 582 with no misses.
That is extraordinary. So that has not only tied the meet record, but also his season's best, his best of his life, 591 indoors from last year. That bar is still wobbling. It has not stopped moving. Dancing all over the place, but it doesn't matter, right? As long as it stays up, Jeff.
That's right. We get a chance to take a second look at that jump, and you see, very robotic. He is so consistent. His every jump looks exactly the same. And that's the key to the success in this event, where you can just put jump after jump together, because then it's easy to make the adjustments and match that peak height up with where the bar placement is.
Well, Chris Nilsson has been put on alert. This is the new standard. One successful clearance at our meet record of 582. That is 19 1 1/4. Now talk me through what you just saw.
Well, something didn't feel right. He's shaking his hand as if maybe he lost grip on the pole a little bit. Halfway down the runway, he was focused on running, and maybe the grip on the pole didn't quite feel right. As we said earlier, he's got 1 minute. He's got 60 seconds to initiate his attempt, and that just means he has to start his run. So for him to, he's been so quick to start his run when the clock starts that he's
giving himself some room for
he does. He has plenty of time to actually go back, kind of regroup, and still take a jump. And this still counts as his first attempt.
Well, here he is again, powering down that runway and trying to make it a successful first attempt. And unfortunately not.
Yeah, something clearly off on that jump. He looked like he didn't feel comfortable in his run. I could see a little bit of a little shift in his stride pattern there, and sometimes it's hard. It's hard to run down, stop, go back, and then try to run again. But he'll have a chance to just go again.
And sorry, I'll just say he did give us a quick flash there to the camera. It looks as though he had scraped a knuckle. His second finger there was bleeding a little bit at the first knuckle, so wondering if maybe he made some contact that he didn't like with something earlier in the competition. So hopefully he can get that resolved, as Cole Walsh will make his first attempt now at 5 meters 82. This would be a big season's best and just shy of his lifetime best. He has vaulted 583. That is going back 5 years now.
It sure has. And first attempt clearance here at 572. And if he can replicate that jump, I think he'll have a good chance here at 582. And a very, very good attempt. That would be, once again, that little blow through. Maybe he's ready to go up to a bigger pole. Maybe he just mistimed the jump a little bit. But he'll have that chance to take a look at that jump and see what he can adjust, and then have a good second attempt. All right, back to this as a replay here. Cole very tall, very strong coming into the takeoff, and just barely hits the bar going up. So he's going to consult with his training partner, Nate Richards, and coach that's helping him out today, and see what he can figure out, what adjustment to make.
So that means that we just have one competitor yet to take to this height. And that is our national record holder, Casey Lightfoot.
Yeah, our only other competitor without a miss.
Well, that is a good scorecard to have at this point in this competition. And now you're starting to see a few of those little cracks just showing themselves with our best athletes. Crowd's getting into it. Casey Lightfoot likes Tennessee. He's performed well here in the past, including that American record of 6:07 in Nashville just over a year ago. And here he is in Memphis trying to make it. Another strong performance and a meet record.
And another nice clearance for Casey.
He is happy with that.
So he matches Zach Bradford as one of 2 competitors without a miss in the competition.
Well, we have now tied our meet record threefold. So that is Bradford, Nilsson, and then this performance from Lightfoot makes it 3 at 5 meters 82. And you've talked so much, Jeff, about the brilliance of... Oh, and I'm sorry, that is a miss by Nilsson earlier. So you've talked about that the need for consistency and how much that counts.
Yeah, it's really critical, and when these guys get into this kind of groove where they're able to replicate jumps, just repeat jumps, jump after jump after jump, then it's as I said earlier, the adjustments become simpler and easier to do, but they're also going to run out of altitude here eventually, and so it's just a question, and yet these other guys that are still in, Matt Ludwig, Sam Kendricks, Chris Nilsson, they have a chance to come back and try to figure out things as well. And they can be right back into this competition just as quickly as they had a miss. So we're going back to the top of the order now, and Sam will be up for his second attempt. All right, it looks like after that first attempt missed by Sam, he decided to pass. He's probably going to conserve his energy. He knows he can't win the competition at this height. So it looks like he passed to the next bar, which will be 587. It's only 2 inches higher. And now we go back to Matt Ludwig for his second attempt, because this would represent a season's best for Matt. And something not quite right on there, and he runs through the pit. But unfortunately, that also counts as a miss. And so he'll have 1 attempt remaining.
Well, now things get serious.
They do start to get interesting. Now we'll see if Chris Nilsson decides to take his jump here, because he's in the same situation as Sam. He has the opportunity to pass, conserve a little energy, and take his shot at the next height, because at this point, both of these guys are already behind Casey and Zach, who have no misses.
So I talked earlier about the mental fatigue of a long season. I would imagine in this event, the mental fatigue is compounded by having to be a mathematician on the fly as well and making all of these calculations. And that's precisely what's happening as we do see Nilsson, and he brings the bar down. So that's his second miss at this height. But Jeff, I'm wondering about, how much of that is a decision that you make as an athlete, or you're just sort of able to hand that off to someone else, outsource the math of it all?
Yeah, at some point during every season, you just sort of get ground down. You're doing this all the time, whether it's in practice or in meets. You're going through that grind every day, and there comes a point where I think everybody starts to get fatigued and just sort of needs to take a break. But at this stage of the game, particularly for those guys that have meets remaining for the season, whether it be the Olympic Games or other meets, they take these things serious, and these are opportunities to compete, and each competition offers a different scenario that you've got to work through. And so for someone like Sam Kendricks, who was in the lead the entire Olympic trials, didn't have a single miss, it's a little bit of a different game than tonight, where he gets a little behind. So he says, look, I'm going to conserve my energy. And we see a miss there by Cole Walsh. From a different perspective, Sam has jumped 19.6 this year. Cole came into this competition with an 18.7 season's best. So for Cole, he wants to jump this. This represents an opportunity for him to get a brand new season's best and show that he's in the best shape of the whole season, and actually the best shape he's been in several years. Whereas somebody like Sam, he says, hey, I know I can make this.
Right.
I'm just going to pass, take my shot at the next bar, and hopefully put things together.
So there's an element of confidence building versus energy conservation, and you can sort of make those decisions as an athlete based on what you know of yourself. Again, this would be just achingly close to the personal record of Cole Walsh. He has jumped 5 meters 83 5 years ago. Bar is currently set at 5 meters 82. And so this would represent a big step in the right direction for him. Now he's going to have a couple jumpers ahead of him. As we said, Kendricks has decided to pass at this height after his first attempt. So Ludwig will be our next jumper, and Matt is looking to join the ranks of only a few other competitors left in this field, all having tied the meet record so far. This would be a season's best. It would be just shy of his lifetime best of 590, and he is having all kinds of conversations with that runway as he prepares for his third jump.
You know, another thing really neat about these type of events is we bring in, there's a DJ and there's music, and it's all surrounding the atmosphere for these athletes. So sometimes they let them choose their own song.
Well, maybe they should have done that here, because unfortunately we are going to wave goodbye to a crowd favorite in Matt Ludwig. And, you know, the trials and tribulations of track and field, a great flip from him. What better way to thank the crowd? But he has just been a gamer for years now, the 28-year-old. You talked about it earlier, Jeff. 5th at the trials, very respectable outcome, but not able to eclipse that meet record here tonight.
Yeah, and we're getting close to the height that it actually took to make that Olympic team. So while it's well within Matt's capabilities, not meant to be tonight. So we'll now turn our attention to Chris Nilsson, who comes up for his third attempt. 582. And you know, for Chris, it's the same thing. He's focused on the Olympics. He's focused on getting ready for the Olympics. He says, "Look, I'm not gonna play somebody else's game. I'm gonna do what I do because I want to try to take it step by step to make sure I'm ready to go when I get to Paris here in a couple weeks."
And I'm sure dial some things in, but also, of course, looking for that continued confidence boost, where you want to feel good about the jump that you're taking. You want to feel good about the performance. Just days out now, weeks out from Paris, and oh, that was a great effort.
So close, so close. Really, really a great jump by Chris, and he just shows why he's one of the best guys out there. And sometimes when you make you make these adjustments and then you get so close, it's a little bit of disappointing, but it's also very satisfying because he knows that he made the right adjustment, and that jump was so close to being a make, and then he's still alive. But he can walk away from this competition feeling pretty good that he made good adjustments tonight, and that's going to serve him well when he gets to Paris in a couple weeks.
And that's great information to carry forward for him and for his coaches. So we have one athlete remaining at this height, and that is Cole Walsh, who has 2 misses here.
Yeah, so Cole will have one more jump at this height, and then we will have 3 or possibly 4 remaining in the competition, depending on what Cole does here.
So again, Kendricks, the defending champion at this meet, having set that meet record of 582 last year. We have, like you just said, 3 clearances so far. Can we make it a 4th in the form of the 29-year-old from Arizona, 2-time All-American for Oregon, 3rd at the 2018 Outdoor U.S. Championships, and he is looking to add his name to this list of 3 going on to the next bar. And it will not be. That was a hit on the way up. So Jeff, we'll say goodbye to Mr. Walsh, who really put on a great show and should be quite proud, I think, of his jumps tonight.
And we are indeed down to 3 competitors left. The interesting statistic is that Sam Kendricks will be our leadoff, but he's only got 2 jumps left. He did have that miss at the last bar and decided to pass, so by virtue of the rules, he's got 2 attempts to make this, but of course a first attempt clearance would bring him back into the mix and buy him 3 more attempts at whatever height he decided to go to after that. So we'll see how these competitors do as we take a few minutes for these for our officials. this bar's getting so high that even our officials are starting to have trouble measuring the crossbar.
Well, it looks as though we are set to go up to 5 meters 87, and you're going to do the math for me, sir, about what that means in
right at 19.3, so a few inches over 19 feet. But we're now splitting hairs each time you go up above this level, because that apex, if you will, at the top of the jump just becomes tighter and tighter. And at this point, it's not a matter of gripping higher on the pole to try to get yourself naturally higher to the bar. You've got to actually execute a better jump to achieve the height to get around this bar, and then that height has to be in the right spot. So these athletes will each have a chance to kind of put their best jump together, and this is exactly the height that it took to make the Olympic team this year. So,
and that's a fun stat to chat about there, and of course this would be a meet record. And so we do have 3 athletes remaining. They are Kendricks, Bradford, and Lightfoot. And Lightfoot and Kendricks both have season's best that eclipse this height. This would be a new season's best for Zach Bradford. Well, you get a great shot there of Beale Street here in the home of the Blues. Memphis, Tennessee, site of the final day after 2 thrilling days of action on the field and the track. We move to Beale Street for the 2024 Ed Murphey Classic wrap-up, if you will. The penultimate stop on the American Track League Tour. The event is moving on to Gainesville on Friday for the final competition, but it has been a great series of events, the Puma American Track League, all in preparation and in service of the Olympic Games in Paris.
And as we do move to this new height, we are down to 3 competitors, so the rules change a little bit. Now each athlete is afforded 2 minutes of time to prepare to take their jump. Gives them a little bit more rest between jumps for successive attempts, or the fact that if we end up seeing three clearances in a row, those guys, it's got a little bit rapid fire here. So they do have a little bit more time, but Sam will have a chance to get us started here at 19.3.
So Sam Kendrick's best coming in, 5.95. Bar is set to 5.87. So again, ever so close. And Jeff, you've talked about the incremental impacts here of the bar being raised by these tiny amounts. Tiny in measurement, great in impact. So Sam, so fast on the runway, defending champion here, looking to make it another. Oh, and a great effort.
And just like we saw on his first attempt at 19.1, very, very good jump, a little off center, and a peak in front of the bar where he just barely came up short and kind of came down on that bar. So you see he's even checking those standards and saying, hey, did I put them in the right spot, or were they placed in the right spot? So he wants to double check those things because he's thinking about what he wants to do on this next attempt. It was a good solid jump. He just needs to be right down the middle probably to have a good success on his last attempt.
Well, Bradford, we've talked about him so much. He has been dialed in. He has a clean scorecard. So too does Lightfoot. So these guys know what the stakes are right now. Successful first attempts at the first 3 heights, passed at the 4th. Everyone passed at the 5th. Clean execution on the 6th. Only 9 men in the world have cleared 5 meters 87 this year, so this is prestigious company. And another beautiful clearance there.
No. He actually couldn't. He ran through that one.
And I apologize. My screen cut out at the last minute. I apologize. I saw the bar still up, and I thought, why is no one celebrating?
Yeah. Yep, that was a run through. And once again, we're talking about splitting hairs here. So if something feels just a little bit off, it's hard to make the adjustment and go. So this affords Casey Lightfoot an opportunity to move into the lead, and at such a substantial height, this really puts him in a strong position for either the win or a very strong finish in this competition, because a first attempt clearance here, a clean scorecard through 5.87, That's pretty remarkable here. When you talk about, as you just did, only 9 other athletes in the world have jumped this high this year, and we're seeing it right here on Beale Street in Memphis, Tennessee.
So Lightfoot just making sure that he is as fresh and ready to go as possible. 592 is best. Now, that was indoors earlier this year. Season's best, I should say. Of course, national record set at 6:07. So 2 of these final 3 competitors have cleared 6 meters at their best. 1 is headed to Paris. Lightfoot was 3rd here last year. He will have that position at least again, and looking to upgrade it to a gold or silver here at the 2024 Ed Murphey Classic. He wants some help. And things are looking good right now for the national record holder. 24 years old. We've got 2 24-year-olds and a 31-year-old set to take to these final jumps. And I had the privilege of watching this man set that national record last year in Nashville. He likes Tennessee, and he's looking to harness all of that here in this attempt.
Lots of people in the audience with their cameras out. They want to take a look at this. They want to see this video. Ooh, and very good jump for Casey. So we have no clearances on the first attempt, so that will take us back to the top of the order. Sam Kendricks will be up, but he has 1 competition remaining. So we're going to take a second look here at Casey's jump. Very strong off the ground, and I think he probably felt like that was a pretty good shot at making that bar. He just barely touched it as he went over. So small adjustment. His good friend Chris Nilsson, already out of the competition, will offer some words of encouragement, a little bit of words of advice. Casey will take a look at that jump, and then he'll be able to come back here for a couple more attempts.
Well, we talked about how the mood has shifted here on Beale Street from lots of fun and games in the early jumps here to laser focus for these athletes, as they are all business. 3 jumpers remain. We've already matched the meet record of 582, 587 the bar set at now. No clearances so far. Similar scorecards between Bradford and Lightfoot. It is the defending champion at this meet, Kendricks, taking to the runway now. He currently sits in 3rd. Headed to Paris in just a few days' time and looking to make any minor adjustments he needs to be at the top of his game.
Another very close attempt for Sam. Just a little bit off, but certainly a good day for Sam, and he is ready to shut it down.
So that will be it for the defending champion. Kendricks is out. He had a great start to the competition. Jeff was really on fire and seemed to be dialed in, and just having a difficult time over these very, very high bars that we now find ourselves at. And
Yeah,
what a great problem to have in so many ways.
It really is, and it like I said, it's a testament to how strong this field of athletes is, where this is a guy who just won the U.S. championships, and he comes in here and has a great day. He jumps very well, and still comes up a little bit short in terms of coming away with the win, but no less a productive day for Sam Kendricks.
Absolutely. So it's the 2 youngsters, the 24-year-olds in the form of Bradford and Lightfoot, who remain. Nice smile and appreciation there between competitors, as Zach Bradford, 582, his best so far this season. He has successfully matched that at the first time of asking. He is looking to raise that here on his 2nd attempt at 587, and it's no good.
Yeah, something's still feeling a little bit off for Zach. We saw a run through on his first attempt, 2nd attempt there. Off the ground, but still not feeling comfortable enough to take that jump up. So he will have 1 remaining. Sam Kendricks is out. So
But
we'll see.
looks like he was maybe launching either a high five or an impromptu arm wrestling competition there with Chris Nilsson. Not sure I'd want to go up against either of these gentlemen, but glad to see that their sense of fun has not been diminished. So Lightfoot, the last athlete to attempt a second jump here at 587. This would be a new meet record. This would come just shy of his season's best. Great shot there of Beale Street. Only 2 competitors remaining.
And it looks like our officials do have the bar ready to go here, and Casey should be up here as he prepares to take his second attempt. No misses at this point in the competition up until this height. So this is only his 6th competition jump.
Well, I'll let you know that when he set his national record last year, he had successful first-time clearances at 570, 580, a second attempt clearance at 592 before he moved up to 6. So he'll certainly have that in mind as he makes his second attempt at 587. And there you see above Alfred's the excitement of the crowd, who again the bar sits at bar height. I love the symmetry of that, and I can attest to the fact that I've been up there watching these gentlemen vault, and it is an extraordinary thing to witness in real time. We hope you're enjoying it on your screens as well. Here goes the national record holder, Casey Lightfoot. And it's good! Beautiful clearance there by Lightfoot. So the national record holder happy with that.
And that's a response from Casey that he's so good at. He's able to really hone in and focus his jump and execute very good jumps. And to come out here, jump 19.3, and now take the lead with a new meet record. We're going to take a look at that jump again. See, very similar to his first jump, just a little bit of an adjustment in the air and very strong over the bar.
Well, 587 is a magical mark. Again, only 8 men have cleared a bar higher than this in the world this year. So we are watching magic unfold.
So now, by virtue of the fact that Sam is already out, we're down to 1 final attempt remaining here. Zach Bradford will have his 3rd attempt, 587. Casey has now moved into the lead. And strong on the runway. And another aborted jump for Zach Bradford. So he'll finish his day with a great performance, 582 with no misses. That's absolutely a world-class performance by Zach Bradford, and just a top 2 finish here at the Ed Murphey Classic.
That is sensational for the youngster, and he should feel really good about that. What a year he's had, and what a season it's been. So that means that Casey Lightfoot is the winner of the 2024 Ed Murphey Classic. The question is, how much higher is he going to go?
He is, and just the same as what we saw with Sandy Morris. He has the opportunity to jump at whatever height he wants. We'll take one more look at that 3rd attempt, and it looked really good off the ground, and then something just wasn't right mid-jump, and he decided to pull out of that jump and land safely in the pit. So we now see if Casey wants to try a little higher. He actually has the opportunity to stop as well, which is a kind of a unique perspective to have. And,
right.
And Casey could stop, or he could continue to go on. But it looks like they're going to slide those standards forward and measure a new height of some kind. We'll just have to see what he decides he wants to try.
Well, you love to see it. He is giving the crowd what they want, and you should again congratulate Zach Bradford on tying his season's best at that 582 clearance. But yes, Lightfoot now fully in control. He is going to be all eyes on him. He is the man to watch. No longer the man to beat. He's beaten them all. And after what has been a challenging year, he has turned up in spades here once again in Tennessee on Beale Street. It's been a thrilling 3 days of competition on the field, the track, and now the street. All the excitement continues as we keep our eyes tuned towards Paris. And officials making some final decisions and final conversation with the American record holder, the area record holder. Again, he is the 4th best vaulter of all time in the world. That is an astounding statistic. 6:07 last year. That means that he sits only behind Mondo Duplantis, Renaud Lavillenie, and of course,
Sergei Bubka. So my guess is Casey is going to try something in the neighborhood of 6 meters, which is a magical barrier. So as we wait for our officials to get that bar up, they're going to measure it, make sure everything is official. Casey will have a few extra minutes here while we're getting set up to rest and regroup and get ready for his next attempts. All right, we're still waiting for confirmation on what height Casey will attempt next. Looks like they have done the measurement. And indeed, the scoreboard indicates that he will try 6 meters. 19.8 1/4. Truly rare air. Only about 25 guys in the history of pole vaulting have ever jumped this high. And as we talked about earlier, Casey actually has been this high in the state of Tennessee just a year ago when he set the American record. So 6 meters, 19 feet, 8 1/4 inches. Only Mondo Duplantis has been higher outdoors this year. This will equal Chris Nielsen's season's best. Chris Nielsen winning the U.S. Indoor Championships with this very height, 6 meters. Went on to represent the United States in the World Championships where he finished 4th. All right, so as we take a few extra minutes here to make sure everything is set, make sure Casey's ready to go. Have a high level of anticipation amongst all the fans and the people who came out here to watch a great pole vault competition, because everybody appreciates just how rare this air really is.
Well, it's good to build towards it, and you're hearing our on-field announcer, Serenity Douglas, doing a great job keeping the crowd engaged and also paying homage again to Eddie Murphey. So if you're just joining us now, we want to thank Eddie Murphey and the Murphey family. We also want to take an opportunity to thank all of our officials and everyone behind the scenes who have made this just a thrilling few days of competition and keeping things safe, successful, and engaging. Lightfoot is dialed in, Jeff. This is really, really exciting.
He really is in a good groove here. He's running well. He's technically very sound. He's putting together good, consistent jumps. Only one miss throughout the whole competition so far, and that was at the last height. But at 19.3, you can expect at least one miss at some point during the competition. So as we looked earlier, en route to his American record, he had a miss during the competition. and then went on to successfully break the American record. And here we go, right here in Memphis, Tennessee, on Beale Street, as we get ready to see his first attempt at 6 meters.
Well, as you mentioned, his countryman Chris Nilsson, one of only 2 athletes this year to have matched or eclipsed this mark. So, Nilsson, 6 meters. Duplantis, 6 meters 24. Those are the 2 best jumps in the world. Casey Lightfoot, we already know that he is an esteemed company on an ongoing basis, and he is looking to cement himself at or above the top 2 globally right here on Beale Street.
And you know, Kate, I'm looking over here at world-famous Alfred's on Beale Street, and that second-story rooftop bar, even they're looking up to see the height of this crossbar. So that just gives you an idea of how high it really is.
It absolutely does. When you have to look up from a second story to see the height that someone is going to launch themselves over, that says everything you need to know. This man knows how to get the job done. He's young, but he is mature. He vaults at a level beyond his years. The 24-year-old Casey Lightfoot, national record holder, first attempt, 6 meters. And he runs through it. So I want to get in the head of someone like this. I know you can't speak specifically to what he's feeling, but at this point, all eyes on him. He's got to be tired. It's been a long season. It's been a long day. It's hot. He's already had such a successful series. How do you get yourself up again? Literally and figuratively, to get up over that bar.
Yeah, you know, sometimes when that happens, it's just a matter of the fact that you really want it so bad, and you're all these things are going through your head. You're trying to make sure that you leave no stones unturned. You want to make sure you run well, you plant well, you swing well, you do all the things right technically, and sometimes you get down to, you're running down the runway, and all of a sudden, the box is there and you're not quite ready to go because you're thinking about all these things. And, you know, I can't really speak to what's going through Casey's mind specifically, but that's a common thing. And so in this case, it ends up being an aborted jump, but at the same time, he's got 2 more attempts. And
lots of time to take them, which is nice.
Lots of time. As a sole competitor left, he actually has 5 minutes between jumps. The officials are usually pretty lenient in making sure he doesn't want to change. We had a rule change this year in the pole vault where the international rules changed where you have to have the settings of your standards in place prior to the starting of the clock for an attempt, and once the clock starts, you're no longer allowed to change it. Up until this year, you were allowed to change it at any time during the thing. So if you had a sort of a mid-clock wind change and you wanted to move your standards, you could. Well, now you can't. So what these officials will do, they're really great officials, is they'll confirm with Casey exactly what he wants to do. And even though he didn't take that jump up, he may say, hey, I might want to try to move my standards a little bit. I was second-guessing it before, or whatever is going through his mind. And he can make those adjustments, which gives him a few extra minutes of time before that clock starts, and then he's on the clock to make that attempt.
So the precision becomes all the more important, but we are getting a look now at some of our other competitors, all of these men top-notch in their field. There, of course, is Austin Miller, and having a good chat with Mr. Murphey on the sidelines. And we just saw Sam Kendricks chatting with Serenity Douglas on site. And, you know, we've spoken so much, Jeff, about the energy transfer between audience to athlete, and this is what really differentiates, for me, the top-class athletes, those who stick around and say, I understand the importance of engaging with folks and thanking them and telling them how I'm feeling and what my process is. And it helps us, of course, as announcers to be able to get inside their heads, something I just asked you to do. But what a great show of good sportsmanship here.
It sure is. And you see a lot of kids. You see a lot of young athletes, a lot of maybe kids that these athletes can inspire. And they get to interact with the athletes up close and personal. And the athletes thrive on that. They get a chance to go up and shake the hands or sign an autograph, and it really is something that makes you feel good inside. It's a little bit of a boost to your ego if somebody asks you for your autograph. And you know, in many cases, these athletes will go on to other competitions that might be televised somewhere around the world, and all of a sudden, these kids are watching television and they say, "Hey, that's the guy I saw down on Beale Street." And that's very inspiring to these athletes, as it is with all the athletes that compete here at the Ed Murphy Classic. The organizers do a great job of promoting interaction between the athletes and the fans, and that's inspirational for both sides.
Absolutely. Well, and I know that you and I both probably have lots of stories of how that impacted us as athletes ourselves, and then being on the other side of it too. And as you mentioned, I'll echo your sentiment there. Kudos to all of the organizers for ensuring that that is a pivotal part of this meet. Again, you are watching the 2024 Ed Murphy Classic, the third consecutive year that this pole vault has taken place here live on Beale Street. Casey Lightfoot loving the energy, and he is looking to clear yet another 6-meter height. So he was third here last year, obviously already the winner of the 2024 edition, but focus is pinpoint now as the North American record holder gets ready for another attempt here at 6 meters.
All right, looks like Casey's ready to go. He is encouraging the crowd to get behind him. Give him some claps of support.
And great to see his competitors joining in on that.
And Chris Nielsen, he's going to pump up the crowd. Sam Kendricks will do the same thing.
And they're no longer competitors at this point.
No.
They're friends, they're comrades. They are looking to make this man as successful as possible, and he's enjoying it. So Casey Lightfoot dialed in, ready to go here. 6 meters on tap. His best this year at 592 indoors. This would be a big improvement on his season's best and awfully close to his personal best and national record. Here we go. Casey Lightfoot on the runway. Oh, and it looked good, but hits it.
That was a very strong attempt by Casey. So that's the kind of feedback you want. You know, the first attempt, something wasn't right. You run through the pit. It actually conserves a little bit of energy, but you don't get any feedback. You don't get anything that you can say, okay, gosh, if I'd have just done this different, it would have been a better jump. But on a jump like that, which we're going to get to see again here in a second, he's going to get some great feedback from that. And you can see that jump continues, just a little brush on the way up. He's going to make an adjustment as to what he thinks is the best opportunity to then execute that exact same jump, but be a little bit higher in the air. You know, we saw that at 587. He missed that first attempt. He went back, he made an adjustment, and he was clear over on the second jump. He ran through the first attempt here, so this is kind of like his second actual jump at the bar. So we'll get to see what happens here.
Such a great point, and you know, to my eye, I can tell he's disappointed, but he also looks tired.
Yeah.
And I think that's absolutely warranted. He just sat on the mat there for quite a while and sort of looked like he was absorbing what just happened, thinking through it, and I imagine that's a huge part of the process, is just doing the replay while it's fresh in your mind, but doing it in a way that's sort of calm and you're just really soaking in what you're feeling.
For sure, and when the bar gets this high, as we've said, you're really splitting hairs. He's got to have everything very precise to get around this bar. This is only 3 inches under our national record, and he's got to really be on point to have a good chance to get around it.
And it looks as though we've just seen a thumbs down, and I believe that is an indication that we may be closing out the competition. Just waiting on confirmation of that. He's still got the pole in his hand. Well, you can tell me, what does that body language say to you?
Yeah, no, I think he's focused. I think he's still good to go. I think he would have taken the pole back to his tube. I think the officials would be taking down the crossbar if he was gonna stop. So I think we're still gonna see attempt. He's just probably gonna take a couple extra minutes here and really focus in and give it everything he's got on this last attempt.
Now, you ran an amazing track meet just yesterday, the Ed Murphy Classic.
Now, for those of you watching online, you see our Serenity Douglas doing a little interview with Ed Murphy and really talking to Ed about the passion that he shares for this event and the things that he brings in and why he wants to see this event be successful. And this event's starting to become a fixture.
Absolutely.
People start to anticipate, hey, I'm going to make sure I'm around in July on Beale Street when the pole vault meet comes, because that makes it an extra special night down here. It's not something you get to see all the time. And the fact that we do it one time a year, that makes it really cool.
Well, again, I so appreciate that perspective, and I can echo it. I was part of the very first Ed Murphey Classic back in 2017. I ran the 1,500 meter. I ran it 2 more times after that, and now to be on the other side and to see the evolution of this event over the last 8 years has been truly remarkable. And it has the legs of something. We talk about these athletes jumping as if they are much more mature than they are. Well, talk about a meet acting as if it's a lot older than it is, because it's got the legs of something far more established. And again, to your point, that's a testament to the hard work of Eddie Murphy, the entire Murphy family, and all of those behind the scenes. And of course, these athletes as well, sharing a Gatorade and maybe a quiet chat on the runway.
And it's really a statement as to the commitment and the dedication of all the people that work to put this event on, to basically close down a city street that's normally open for people to walk around, and the setup and all the time and the man hours that go into making this event ready to go just for a couple hours of pole vault competition. And yet it's so spectacular when it happens. You know, the people that get up close, the people that never saw it before get to see it in person. These are things that they're going to... I would venture to guess that quite a few of the people that see this will now watch the Olympics.
Right.
Just by chance that they get to see somebody that they saw tonight, or get to see the event and say, hey, what's it look like at the Olympic level?
And how special is that? We've said it a few times, and not to be redundant, but bringing the sport to the people. This is how you get it done. And I'll, again, just echo that sentiment that the creativity and the hard work behind the scenes really makes this all happen. So, bringing things back onto the runway. In the orange, Mr. Lightfoot, national record holder, North American record holder, 592 at his best. He was 4th in Tokyo in 2021. We have fireworks going off in the background. And I'm not going to say that they're connected to this, but talk about good timing.
Hey, I think we're about to have fireworks right here on Beale Street.
That's right. Fireworks on Beale Street anytime the Ed Murphy Classic is in town. What a special celebration. So again, only 2 men in the world have matched or bettered the height that we are attempting right now. This is 6 meters on the button. Casey is one of the few in the world that has ever eclipsed this. He did this last year at the Music City Track Carnival, looking to match his countryman Nilsson with a 6-meter clearance. Only Duplantis has vaulted higher, an astounding 6:24. Here we are. Meet record has been broken. Casey Lightfoot is your 2024 champion at Ed Murphy. Can he clear 6 meters? Third and final attempt.
And you'll see his preparation to take this attempt is almost identical to every other jump tonight. That routine is so important to stay consistent.
Consistency is key. That's the one thing I've learned from you. One of many things I've learned from you tonight, Jeff. And here we go. Casey Lightfoot, third and final attempt at 6 meters. And it's not to be.
Not to be tonight.
Well,
a
a
great
valiant
show from
effort.
Casey Lightfoot.
Yes.
Absolutely great show.
And, you know, we talked about it. He looked tired, and rightfully so. It's been a huge season. And I think it's not to be understated that there is a bit of a hangover from Tokyo. That was so difficult. I can attest to it as an athlete myself who competed there, just to get to those games.
Yeah.
You know, it was a year delayed. We've now condensed 4 years into 3, and the accordion splits open and it comes back together, and now we're going to establish some normalcy again going into the next games, which of course are going to be right here in America, in Los Angeles, but it takes a toll over time, and I'm sure that this young man is feeling the weight of that as well.
Well, while there's many great events to happen between now and then, it is pretty remarkable that the Olympics is going to be here in Los Angeles, you know, and I think for all North Americans, it's going to be a special event when the world has to come to us, kind of, so to
Absolutely.
speak. And yet there's a lot of things to happen in between, and as we talked about when we very first started talking today, right now it seems like that's a long way away, and it'll be here
before you know it. Absolutely.
But in the
corner.
meantime, we're all looking forward to Paris, and we're looking forward to see what these athletes can do, and the things that they're going to do that's going to entertain us and be special in the world of track and field.
You've spoken about how difficult it is to make this U.S. team just to get to the Olympic Games, the World Championships, whatever the event may be, and to see so many of the top performers in America and across the world competing in one of two esteemed venues. Of course, we hosted the field events and the track events over the last couple of days. Here we are on Beale Street yet again, and it's been thrilling action on track, on road, on field. And the party continues. And the party will continue here on Beale Street. DJ's getting after it, and you better believe that everyone who just turned up for this pole vault competition is energized and ready to keep things rolling. It's been an absolute blast calling this meet. Jeff, it's been so fun working with you, and I know that both of us wish we could still be competing in these events.
Yeah, these are the events that we all love to look back and say, gosh, I wish I was out there. Wish I had a chance to grab that pole or strap those shoes on and get out there and mix it up with this group, because these are fun events. These are events that these athletes look forward to for weeks in advance, and it's easy to get people to come. You know, it's fun because you know it's going to be entertaining. You know it's going to be a great crowd. All right, I think we're going to take a second here. We're going to get a few comments from Casey.
We want to thank our sideline reporter, Serenity Douglas, for all of her hard work over these last 3 days. And she is still there at the base of the runway. And she is going to be chatting with our winner, Casey Lightfoot. New meet record, national.
All right, Casey, congratulations on your win out here. Talk to me about what you were just trying to work on before you came out here.
I didn't have a whole lot to work on. Been struggling with some kind of Achilles problems, so pushing through that a little bit. But I just wanted to come out here and have some fun, and I successfully did that. I had a good time.
You absolutely did. You broke the meet record. Is that what you were expecting out here?
No, I can't say that's what I was expecting because I didn't know what the meet record was. I've been here every time, and I still didn't know it. But yeah, it's a cool title to have, and I'm sure we'll all come back next year trying to make it a little higher.
Are you done for the season?
No, I'm not done for the season. They can't kick me out yet, you know.
What's next?
I'm not sure. I think I got an MRI on Monday, so I guess that'll tell me a little bit more about the rest of the season.
So then how are you able to just train through that, some of the uncomfort that you've been feeling, and just come out here and put your best foot forward?
Yeah, I mean, that is the tough part, is training, because a lot of times I can't do what I want to do, because you got to, when you got problems, you got to nurse them. But we do the best that we can, and came out here, had a good time, had some ibuprofen to cover it up a little bit, and it was okay.
Well, congratulations on your win today. How are you going to celebrate? You're out here on Beale Street.
I don't know. Hopefully we get some food because I'm pretty hungry. But other than that, not much. We'll drive back to Sam's house.
Well, thank you, Casey. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Kate.
Well, excitement has abounded over the last 3 days here in Memphis, Tennessee. It's been a great several days of action. Jeff, final thoughts here as we close out the 2024 edition of the street meet here at the Ed Murphy Classic.
Well, when power and grace meet world-class entertainment, that's what you get here at the Ed Murphy Classic and the Beale Street Pole Vault Competition. It was absolutely a fantastic night with some remarkable performances by some of the best pole vaulters in the world. We saw a couple of great road miles with some really gutsy performances and some unbelievable times, so it's been a very special night. And now the fireworks are drowning us out in the backwards, so what a fitting way to end the night.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. So it is time for us to say goodnight, but thank you so much for tuning in to the